just
I
do
was
it for the connection.
I was camera shy at first too, so
Well, I'm on disability, so I can't take any of the monetization. And I said, Mom, you need it, you take it, and it's yours. And I just wanna
yeah.
connect with people. That's all I want to do.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome in. This is my friend Mary from Blessed to Crochet. Empowered Living 70 Plus is a new channel that I've connected with. Thank you for coming. I am so glad you made it to the live. Um, I normally on Wednesdays do positive, good news. Um, Try to find something good in every day. I do have a couple of things. Number one, my sister lives in Sarasota, Florida, and Hurricane Milton went through. However, her like 4 block area was not touched. So we're blessed that she was safe and not touched by that hurricane. She said around her is pretty devastated, but it'll get better. And then on my weight loss journey, I got my winter or it's like a sweatshirt jacket, but I got it out of the closet because it's starting to get cool here in the early mornings. And I leave like at 5:30 in the morning to go pick up my granddaughter. So I said, "Yeah, I need to find that jacket." Well, I put the jacket on and I could literally wrap it around myself twice. And so I went to the store to buy a new jacket, and I was able to buy a jacket 3 sizes smaller than that jacket. So that is my non-scale victory for this week. I was so happy. And I see Anna came in. Hello, Anna. Welcome, welcome. And we're going to go ahead and let Miss Mary tell us all about her channel.
I'm going to put this in the description. This is the link just so people have it. For the cookie connection, it's the Blessed Cookie Connection 24, but there's a little story behind it that I think is important. So I'll put that in and also put my channel if anybody's not connected with it yet. I started Blessed to Crochet for no other reason than I had just got done with my daughter's wedding in 22. And I was thinking, you know what? I was in mom groups with brides and so forth because I was the crafter. So I did a lot of the decorating and so forth. So I connected in that way. And I said, I'm a crocheter. If anybody needs a blanket done, I'll be glad to do it. It's a great way for a gift for, a wedding gift or a shower gift. And I was perfectly happy to say, you buy the yarn, I'll crochet. It was our first winter. We moved from Cincinnati up to where we live now. So it was our first winter. I was exhausted. I'm a fibromyalgia survivor and warrior. And so I was just trying to recover from this huge, over 100 people wedding. I have a cup and a mug that says, I survived my daughter's wedding. And that was the truth, 100%. She was a beautiful bride. And she's my only one. So I said to my son-in-law, it is going to be her, it's both of your days, but I only have one shot at this one. And she looked beautiful. So I just started the YouTube channel and I said, let's just go, Mom. We'll just put it up. And I was kind of searching for names, and I love the name Blessed to Crochet because I do crochet and I love it. And my husband said, you should replace the word 2 for the number 2. And I thought, that's it. I was just putting stuff on the channel just to show people what we were doing. My mother knits and I crochet. Didn't think a thing of it. And in April of 2023, I found a channel. Now it kind of goes back a little bit. I'm a huge Elvis fan. I know I'm young, but I love Elvis's music. And I connected very much with my dad, who had dementia for 7 years with Elvis. And so I thought, most of my life I spent trying to learn about his music, but then I wanted to learn about who he was. Well, part of the connection with that is his ex-wife, Priscilla, and his daughter, Lisa Marie. And I thought, okay, well, what drew them to Scientology? Now, I'm a Christian. That's a cult. But what do they believe? Just interested in all that. Um, and so through that, I found a channel called The Lifeboat. And that there's a gentleman that runs that channel. His name is Tommy Scoville. That man has changed my life. My life does not look the same that it did last year. And so I thought, well, he was on talking about the Danny Masterson case. I'll go ahead and subscribe to his channel. It's a sobriety channel. I have addicts in my family. I don't really need to do it, but I'll just support. Well, I started building friendships through this channel and started, they do twice a day. And I started building friendships and making connections with people. Well, it didn't become real until December of last year. My aunt was diagnosed with stage 4 liver and lung cancer. It is now terminal. So she is now in the last stages of that. We got to see her one last time in August. And then we had a family member, for whatever reasons they chose to totally decide that they wanted to disconnect from us entirely. Disconnect phone-wise, disconnect, every which way. We have no way of contacting them anymore, and that's their choice. But it was very hard. It was a lot of hurt around Christmas time and around this diagnosis of my aunt's cancer diagnosis. It's also that December becomes the anniversary of my grandfather's and my dad's passing. So my grandfather died in 97 on New Year's Eve. My dad, New Year's Day in 2021. So that it kind of all compound itself. Well, I had gotten, one of the ladies within the Lifeboat group who lives in Australia, who is in the medical field, when I put in there that my aunt was battling cancer, said, would you do me the favor, if you need to talk, please reach out to me. I'm in the medical field. I can help you kind of understand what's going on. And we connected on Facebook. She's 16 hours ahead of me. As a fibromyalgia patient, this is what I use to help me deal with pain. It's one of my tools. But in the middle of the night, one of the other wonderful side effects of fibromyalgia is panic attacks. Well, it's great when you're awake, but when you're having multiple panic attacks in the middle of the night and you're asleep, those are far from fun because you're waking up going, what's happening? And so, everybody's asleep, and I could call her through Messenger and talk with her for an hour, and I could go back to sleep, because it was such a difficult time and everything was kind of compounding there. So that channel became real. I mean, it came from just a channel to actually building those friendships and building those connections. And then as we call it, because it's a boat, and you don't, it's all about connection and helping people just, deal with sobriety and understand people in their family that may be struggling with an addiction. I struggle with a food addiction. And Jane, he said, if you have something to say, hit that big red button. So I went to my mom and I said, nobody's going to want to listen to this person over here, so why don't we try it? I don't want any if we make it to monetization, which I thought was such a lofty goal, I thought that'll never happen. That if we do, I want you to have it. You take it. My dad passed outlived his life insurance, so she has some leftover expenses. I said, I want you to have it. If we get there, I don't want it. I just want the connection. So I hit that red button and I went. And I have so many friends and brothers and sisters now in a way I never did before. They are there if I need to talk. I have my mods have a little group on Messenger, and we talk back and forth. And there's connections happening. I had this tape running in my head for many years that said, nobody wants to be my friend. I can be an intense person. I can talk a lot, thankfully. And I was raised in the Greek culture. So the Greek culture is just very much the way it is. And so we're kind of loud. If you've ever seen my big fat Greek wedding, we're not that extreme, but they're it's just their personality and the way that they are. And so it's a wonderful culture. But it's we're just there. And that whole tape has changed in my head. I don't believe that nobody wants to be my friend. I have wonderful friends and now what I call somewhat sisters. And two of the ladies, the one lady in Australia and another friend of mine who is also raising a child with autism. I have raised a child with autism, so I have some experience and we can connect that way. They have kind of adopted my daughter and they have come beside her and they have become like aunts to her. They've just come beside. We're just kind of this group of sisters, and they've said we're going to come beside because my daughter's losing an aunt. She's lost another family member, and so they've come beside in such a special way. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you have ever watched his videos, but Kevin, and I may say his name wrong, Colby, I think that's who it is.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way he does his YouTube videos because he breaks it down very simply. And I was crocheting one day and I went back a couple days ago and I listened to videos he had done 2 years ago, and he had somebody on and he said, use the platform in which the platform is intended for.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, YouTube is not a place of community. And I thought, this was 2 years ago.
Right.
How much has that changed in 2 years?
Yes, it is very much a place of community now.
It is. There's a lot more live feed happening. If we think of Facebook as a page, and when you go hit that like button or you ask a friend request, when you go on YouTube and you hit the subscribe button, that's like a friend request on Facebook.
Right.
Whether you have content or not, you have a YouTube channel. And I will sometimes even subscribe to something with no content because that's very similar to asking for a friend request like you would on Facebook.
Right.
So YouTube it's no way in a way that does videos anymore where people are just watching videos. There's live content. There's community happening. There's community happening. The Lifeboat now has people on there that have what we call ripples. They have rippled out. And one of the lady who I'm dear friends with, who's raising the autistic individual, she has a YouTube channel, and she said to me, she goes, I don't know what my niche needs to be. I'm all over the map. And I said, why can't your niche be connection? It's a part of YouTube, whether we realize it or not. And so by doing the cookie connection, I really wanted to bring people into the fray that says, I don't want to do videos. I don't want to do videos. I don't want to put any content on my channel. You all have channels. Every solitary one of you do. But you may not want to put content on there. But I wanted to be able to bring people in that could say, I have a great cookie recipe, and it was my grandmother's recipe, and this is the story behind it, and this is the memory behind it. And I wanted to bring them in so they could still feel like they could have that. They didn't have to produce a video. Like, Gail's Southern Living, the Fall Fest was wonderful, but you had to produce a video, and I wanted to do it in a way that somebody that says, I don't want to do a video, but I have a great recipe, could participate in that. So I put the link in there. All you have to do is send in your cookie recipe. That's it. We're going to make the shorts. We're going to put the shorts up. If you have a channel and you want to do a corresponding video to it, go right ahead. Do it however you want. Do it as long as you want. Tag us in the video. If you want to do a giveaway in your video, go right ahead. Just let us know if you're doing it. We'll put those videos in a playlist. We're going to do the shorts. If you want to do your own short, we're going to send a PDF or to you to say use this in your short, so it all kind of connects. And then we're taking it outside of that And anybody that sends in a cookie recipe that wants to connect through Facebook, we have a group that all those people that have sent recipes can connect and start building those relationships. And
I think
then
that's a wonderful idea.
we'll close that down when the cookie recipes stop in January. And they're going to have all that time to start building the recipes before the next Christmas comes up. Connection is so important, and I don't think we realize how important it is, especially if you're dealing with a chronic illness. There's days, because of my fibromyalgia, hi Sandy, that I cannot go out. I have to wear really loose clothing because the touch of clothing hurts my skin. My back's been acting up for a couple days. I had to bring out the walker yesterday when I was walking around the Amish country. There's days I just cannot, whether I'm having a migraine or having a really difficult day, I just can't do that. And so this has become a place where I can come and connect and have support and make tremendous friends. And I don't teach anybody how to crochet. You don't have to know a single crochet from a double crochet or a foundation row. I don't want to teach anybody how to crochet.
Right.
I want to connect. I'm blessed to be able to crochet, but what are you blessed to do?
Right.
Whatever it may be. And go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say that when I started my channel, it was desperately me reaching out to whomever would listen, and because of having the channel, I have met so many people, and like you said, they're all over the world. And, some days you're like, boy, it is 3:00 in the morning, and I'll go ahead and go live. And I'm like, is anybody awake? And I'll have 12, 15 people come, and they're all like, we're insomniacs, And I'm like, I know, but usually I'm sleeping at night, but not every night. So I just feel like it's my biggest problem is I feel like I get too invested in the relationships with people. And I had one that passed away. And I'm actually in contact with her parents because she enjoyed my channel to the point that she talked to them about it because they're more my audience age, than she was. So now I have that friendship developing with them because of having known their daughter. But it's just some days I think, you're just got too big a heart and you're going to get hurt and you're going to, make it to where it does bother you if something happens to somebody, but I think that's human being human.
Yeah, you have to be able to extend it out and have those connections. It takes 200 hours to build a connection and friendship with people. And I, for myself, raising an autistic individual, I spent many times with a lot of my friends not understanding my world, not understanding what it was like to be able to be in that situation. I didn't want anybody coming beside trying to understand it. Go ahead and try, and I can explain it to you. I want somebody coming beside me just to be my friend. I spent a lot of time sitting on the couch, trying to just hoping for a friend, and there was nobody there. And I said, I don't want that. I kind of went through this, like, we should change our name, because everybody's going to see crochet and think, oh, I don't crochet. I'm going to really encourage everybody to go window shopping. If you think of a street, go in each shop and you may find some little things that you were unexpectedly that were there that you weren't expecting to be there. Just because it says crochet, they may not be doing anything. I will direct you all over the place where to crochet. But it's not something that I felt that I was equipped enough to teach or that I wanted to teach. I want to focus on connection. And it's almost like I've spent my life with trying to get people to understand autism and getting past the stigma of what autism is. And I thought, no, I'm not going to change it. We're going to keep it just the way it is. And encourage people to go in. I mean, I've gone in with homesteading channels, and I don't know how to garden for nothing. I don't enjoy it, but I enjoy watching other people garden, and I've
Well,
connected with people that have gardened.
that's like with me with I love the farm animals. You know, I live in an apartment in a city. There's no way I can have farm animals, but I love watching them. You know, when they're going to have a new calf or a baby lamb or something born, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm on lamb watch. You know, let's get this baby here. So I've done the
Yeah.
same thing. I'm in all kinds of channels that I have nothing
Yeah.
really in common with other than
Yes.
I like people, you know. So I mean, I can find my way that way. But is this one channel in particular, she was raising quail and rabbits, and she tried to convince me that I could do that here in my apartment.
That would be interesting, right?
And I was like, okay, that's a sure way to get kicked out of my apartment, you know, having livestock in my apartment. But I understand exactly what you're saying. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what genre you're in or what your hobbies are or your likes or your dislikes. And it was interesting when you said about the Scientology, because I like to meet people from different countries, different cultures, different religions, because I'm curious. You know,
Yeah.
I've been in the United States my entire life. I was raised Lutheran, which is like an offshoot of Catholic, but definitely Christian. So I've never studied any other religion or anything like that. So then when I do meet someone of a different religion, or at least someone who is more open, I guess, to it, I'm like pumping them for information. I like to, you know, ask a million questions about everything.
Well, I'm going to put this here. Scientology is not a religion.
No, it's a cult. I agree.
It's a cult. And just so everybody knows, Elvis Presley did walk in. They did try to recruit him. He went in for a battle of about a half an hour and came out of there madder than a hornet. And said, there is no way that this place is getting any of my money. They did. It's a scam. Nobody's getting any of my money. And he walked out. It's just sad that Lisa Marie and Priscilla, and then she took her daughter through all that. It's sad. But he went in and quickly went out and realized, no. And I found Elvis because I thought he was cute when I was 12 years old. And then I got into his music. Well, later on, my dad, who had dementia, I could turn on Elvis's music and I had him for just a moment. So there was a great connect, especially towards the end, of putting on Elvis music, and my dad would be able to hum along, and I had him for just a moment. And I've just always enjoyed his music. And one of my favorite stories of Elvis was, and I didn't find out this for years, and kind of something I've kind of taken on a little bit in myself, is one of his bodyguards read a story about a woman who had no legs, they had made a handmade little scooter for her out of wood. And these skates, she had, had raised children and grandchildren, and done some amazing things with this disability. And he said, find out where she lives and get me the best wheelchair money could buy. And he put this in the back of the limo, and he went to their house and knocked on the door, and her husband answered the door. Now, for those people that said Elvis was in any way racist, he was not. This was an African-American couple. He didn't care what color skin you were. And he went in the house with this wheelchair. So we got something for her. She came around the corner. They said the house was spotless. And she said, is this for me? And he goes, yes. And Elvis and another gentleman put her in the wheelchair. And he said, ma'am, I don't know much about it, but it's going to take you anywhere you want to go. And it's going to go really fast. Mm-hmm. And he said, we got to get out of here because everybody's crying. He gave the husband some money and he left. and the one of the bodyguards turned to him and said, Elvis, I don't think she knew who you were. And he said, it doesn't.
Right, didn't.
Yeah. And he said, it didn't matter
Didn't
who
matter.
I was. It mattered that someone knew that they were cared about. And
Right.
that story was so impactful. And I only heard it a couple years ago, that I go through thinking, how can I show people that they're cared about? That they mean something. They're worth something. We talk about some things that aren't the most pleasurable, and that are hard subjects on our channel, and we have some fun along the way, but there's a safe place to come talk.
Right.
We still do daily devotion Tuesday, which I missed yesterday. We still do that. That's pre-recorded. We do quotes every Monday, and we do a reflection on that from a biblical standpoint. How can we take the worldly quotes and look from them from a biblical standpoint? We do Topic Thursday. All that's recorded. But we try, when people are coming in live, to not, if they believe something different than we do, that's okay. We want it to be a safe place. We want people to be able to come in, and if they're struggling with something, let's talk about it. Let's be here to support each other. And has nothing to do with crochet, even though that's in the name.
But I like the way that you explain it. You're blessed to be able to crochet no matter what your ailments are or what the situation is. And I'm sure raising your daughter, there were times that crocheting just took your mind off of where it was and let you have a few minutes to enjoy the crocheting part.
I started in 2013, 14, somewhere in there. And when I first started, I said to myself, I said, okay, a family member came down and showed me, and I said, okay, I'll try to figure it out. I tried through YouTube and I couldn't figure it out. So I went someplace and they showed me how to do it. And once I started doing it, I thought, there's a hat, just single crochet rows. When I get done with that, I'm never picking up the crochet hook again. And it was like, once I got hooked, I literally got hooked. But where I am now in my skill level is so much further than I ever thought I would do. I have come to love to do blankets that are done with the bobble stitch, where I'm doing several blankets for somebody who is literally putting their grandchild's name on them and their birth date. And I'm really enjoying those. They're more like a crochet or cross stitch pattern, which I loved cross stitch for many years. And I have projects that need to get done, but I can't get to them because I have so much of the other projects happening. But I've always been somebody that's had to have work with their hands, and I'm crafty and so forth. And I've just really never thought I would be somebody that would crochet. But I enjoy it, and I'm glad I do, because when days when I'm really hurting, if you're focused on that I can crochet for hours. It doesn't bother my hands. I can crochet for hours without even without paying much attention. I'll get involved in a series. I'll be crocheting. 3 hours have passed. Well, I'm not focused on how much pain I am. If people realize that fibromyalgia is almost like a light bulb, and your light bulb is shut off, your pain mechanism is stopped working. So when somebody has fibromyalgia, their light bulb is on all the time. It just depends how you choose to make it so it's not so bright. And all of the medication that they can put at me, except for one, is something that either I react to and I can't use. So there's not much they can do except, oh, yes, you should be doing this and you have to be doing this. Well, if in 2:00 in the afternoon, I start getting sometimes I'll get like really cold, even if it's 90 degrees outside, you could put about 6 blankets on me and I'll be shivering for about 2 hours, which is extremely painful. And I didn't understand what was happening. And somebody explained to it, and he said, your body is producing heat in order to help you deal with it. It's burning energy to try to help you deal with it, and you're getting cold. And so when those happen, I have to literally stop everything I'm doing and go underneath blankets and stop moving for an hour or two. How can you work if you going to go, oh, okay, that's going to happen when you don't know, and a migraine's going to pop up when you don't know, and what are you going to feel like?
Well, and that's the thing, people say they have good days and they have,
Yes.
better days, but I deal with, my diabetes, and I've got the neuropathy in my feet to where I can't feel my feet at all. And that causes me to have a lot of balance issues because my brain doesn't know where my feet are. And if I don't pay attention to how I'm walking and where I'm walking, I will trip my own self, or I will stumble and fall, over nothing. So I've had to compensate for that. And I have the cane, and I have the walker, and I have the wheelchair. And depending upon how my sugars have been over the years, it's always worse the higher my sugars are.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Since I did the weight loss surgery and have lost some weight, my sugars are lower. That's making the neuropathy. It will never go away. It will never be back to normal, but it is lessened because of that. But it's always going to be there. And
My
you try to explain to somebody, I literally cannot feel my feet. Nothing.
Yeah.
They do not believe me. But yet, like when I go to the foot doctor, and if I have a wound on my foot and they have to cut away at it, they're looking at it like, you didn't numb it. How is she standing it? And it's like, I don't feel it. I can't feel it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, which is a good thing, because I think if I could feel the pain of it, it would be, that much worse. So I'm glad I can't feel it. But it's hard for other people to understand if they don't have that situation. And I feel like that's how it would be with the fibromyalgia, because like you said, the pain is always there, but the intensity might be, different, or where in your body you're feeling it at the time, may be different.
Well,
And
I tell people
who don't have it, they don't understand it.
No, they don't. I tell people it's like if you've walked an amusement park for your entire day, and you're sore and you're achy. Well, you know what? That's kind of me every day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no relief. It's not like you just, okay, I'm going to take it easy and I'll be better tomorrow. There's no relief. You're continuing to go. We are going to be doing the cookie thing. It'll be a tradition on the channel. And one thing that I forgot to mention too is that I'm hoping to get enough cookie recipes, because what we'd like to do with it is be able to take it and be able to put it in some kind of downloadable cookbook for everybody to print. This will always be in memory of my dad. My dad never bypassed a cookie. And then what we would like to do with those is make it printable onto the on our merch store, and then be able to donate some of the proceeds to the Gary Sinise Foundation that came beside our family when we needed to place a new air conditioner in the house for my parents. We'd like to give a small donation to Broken Hearts Ministry for what she does, and that way it'll keep it within the YouTube community. And then if people will allow us, we'd like to buy some Gideon Bibles with it. That's just possibility, but the other two for sure will happen. And that's what we're hoping to do with it, as a way of kind of, just remembering my dad. Another thing that we're doing, those that probably have seen these boxes around, we're filling the Samaritan's Purse boxes. This will be another tradition on our channel. We're filling 2 of them, one for a 5 to 7-year-old boy and one for a 10 to 14-year-old girl. And we're going to fill these boxes. And I'm hoping that every year that goes by with the growth of the channel, we can say we filled 2 last year. Well, we filled 4 next year. and we filled 8 the following year. And we
Right.
continue to grow that, because if we think about it, the person and the child that gets this box, that's all they may get for Christmas. And we're going to do this. My grandmother loved children. She always gave to St. Jude. So this is in her memory. She lived in Scotland during the war, and so she knew what it was like. She got a doll from her mother, and all 3 girls had to share the toy. So this is in memory of her, Annie, and the cookie connection will be from my dad, and then to be able to turn it over and to be able to turn it over and be able to use it for good. I don't think we realize what we have in front of us sometimes with the YouTube community. When my aunt was trying to come up here to see us for the last time recently, my mom said, why don't you just put the call out on YouTube and see? Maybe your community, our community would help us a little bit. We got the ticket paid for. It was $414, and the ticket was paid for in full for her to come up and give us that one last hug. And that was something we weren't sure whether or not was going to happen. And that week we'll have extremely special memories as we look back with my aunt. She went horseback riding with my daughter and did things that we can look back. And even just waiting a month or 2, she's really even struggling now. She has no energy. She tried. They had her on regular chemo. Now there's chemo pills, and she couldn't tolerate those. So I'm so glad that we didn't wait. But the fact that the YouTube community came beside me, and it was really hard when we got the diagnosis that it changed from, we knew it was bad, but we knew that it became terminal. There were people that at times leading up to her visit who are late night people who come on, and I would go to their lives, and just the hearing a friendly voice, somebody I knew talking, because my head was not stopping. It was just spinning. Yeah. One of the ladies that I have grown to call a friend, she was a travel agent on the side. And I we're trying to look for flights, and we're getting over. And the minute I'm looking, I'm crying. And I'm like, God's like, Mary, stop. This is too much. And I messaged her and said, could you help? I can't even look for an airplane ticket. And she came beside us and did all that searching and stuff, and it was just amazing how it all connected together. But it was amazing how the YouTube community just came beside, and I think we can do so much, and if you don't think, and I look at YouTube, I don't know if you do, I know I look at YouTube very differently now in a way that I didn't when I was on the other side of the camera.
Yeah. Well, when I first started watching YouTube, it was because it was in the time of the pandemic, and I had decided I wasn't going to pay for cable TV, and I found out that YouTube had, different things, but I used it mainly to look up, how do you do this? How do you fix
exactly
that? That kind of thing. And then I love true crime, and I love mysteries. And so then I found out that there was true crime channels, talking about current cases and things. And so I got hooked on that. But I never even then thought, well, I'll do a channel. It was my friend Norma that I met in one of those chat groups. She does crafting, and she was like, I really want to do a craft channel, but I don't know how to use the computer. I don't know anything about YouTube or StreamYard or, anything. And I said, well, I don't know anything about it either, but I have time on my hands, I can research things, and I can try to figure things out, and I will help you. Well, in the process of trying to help her, I got bit by the YouTube bug, and I started a channel for my dog just to have something to play with, doing the videos of the dog and things, and then eventually started this channel. But the whole thing it was like when I needed something to fill in that space in my life, God put YouTube there in front of me. And so I feel like I want to help other people who might be sitting at home in the same situation that I was in, or just people in general that, we all go through things. You don't get
Yes.
through this life without being scarred and, having issues. And I think a lot of people are, even their own family members, don't want to hear about their conditions and their
Exactly.
situations. And, they get told, quit nagging, quit complaining, just live your life. I believe happiness is a choice, and you have to decide to be happy. You can't wait for somebody to make you happy or something to make you happy. So I kind of feel like, it's okay that we all have problems, and you can come and we can talk about our problems. But at the end of the day, we're going to choose to be happy, instead of just sitting there saying, well, gee, something's going to come along and it's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Well, nobody needs to suffer in silence.
No.
And if I know that I look beforehand when people get super chats or somebody becomes a member, I didn't all get it. I get it now in a very different way because before we hit the red button, we had to invest in a little camera and a microphone, which was like $60. So, people are investing in you, and your channel, but they're also wanting to give. There's giveaways that happen on some channels and they're investing into it. And so if you want to support a channel, and we all know money's extremely tight, go watch some of their playlists and let the ads run if they're monetized.
That's
If you can, I think that gifting memberships sometimes is a great way, especially if you have a channel, because they're going to get an email that your channel gifted them a membership.
Right.
So that's a great way of supporting a channel. And just showing up and watching the replay, if you love a channel, is amazing. If they do live content, participate in it. And I hear a lot that people say, I don't see a lot of the community tab. Well, it's kind of like the lamp that your aunt gave you for the wedding that you got to put in the corner, and you go, I'll just have it there, but I don't like it. I don't pay much attention to it. And what you'll find out, if you start going to your community tab and you go to the channel and you go to their community tab, find out what they're doing. Are they supporting other channels?
Right.
We do a take a break shout out every day. Are they supporting other channels? Are they participating within that community tab? And you will find out that what will happen is the algorithm will change, and you'll actually start seeing more of the community tab.
Well, I love my community tab. I think I use it too much. I think people are probably saying, there she goes again. What is she doing now? Because I just feel like, especially if I go to somebody's live or I know somebody's put out a good video and I'm like, oh, share that baby out, And then I'll be saying, and somebody might come in my chat and they might say, my Aunt Bessie has got to have surgery. I'm like, all right, I got you. And I'll go and I'll put up a prayer request. Let's pray for so-and-so's Aunt Bessie, And sometimes I feel like, and I've often wondered, do people get tired of it popping on? I like when I see them, when other people share things out in that. So I don't know, but I'm like you, I'm a talker. It's like, I can't talk to everybody. So I can post something on that community page and hope they read it,
Well, what's happening is if you're not going to people's community tabs on their page, if they have a channel and you're not just scrolling through and kind of exploring it a little bit, it's not going to show up on your algorithm. And then that's why people say, I have no idea. I don't pay much attention to the community tab. It doesn't show up in my feed. We have to think, and it's helped to kind of understand and realize that the Facebook is designed a certain way and YouTube is also done a certain way. It's just different in the way that they structure it, but it's kind of the same. And it's just come in a way that's done a lot more community and a lot more live content. That's just, amazing. And I never thought for a million years we get to monetization. That was just like, yeah, we'll get there. That it's a lofty goal. And I had a video of our dog, which I'm sure you heard barking her little head off out there.
I'm surprised mine didn't start, because that's usually what happens. Mine barks, and everybody else is like, I have to mute because my dog is barking.
That's our grand dog, and it's Christina's dog. But anyway, we're taking care of it. But Mocha was just, I had a video of her tilting her head as a staffy, and I said, "Hi, sweetheart, how you doing?" And I decided to post it. Well, I wasn't much content. I'll put that up as a short. It got 10,000 views, and literally had 100 subscribers. And I'm like, okay. Well, then I went from 50 and we went to 150. I'm like, maybe this is possible. I had no idea what work was ahead of us, but I'm really glad I put it in, and I'm glad we got monetized within the first year, because then, after that, it's going to chip away.
Right.
YouTube's going
Karen
to chip away
is
from it.
asking us, when does the cookie collab start?
The Cookie Collab starts, people who have channels can start putting it up. No, they can put up their videos as of November 26th. Just go ahead and tag tag Blessed to Crochet. Go and do hashtag Blessed Cookie Connection 24. If you're doing a giveaway or not, let us know you're doing a video. Let us know you're doing a giveaway, so that when I organize the playlist, I can kind of have an idea who's doing what, and I can kind of put in a little bit of sporadic and say, well, if there's 2 videos doing a giveaway and one that's choosing not to, I can kind of sandwich that in between a little bit. We're going to take care of the shorts, because I didn't know how to, I racked my brain for a while thinking, how can we do this so we can bring people in that do not want to do videos, do not want to do content, but they want to participate. And the only way I could think about doing that was taking on the shorts. And if you want to go to Let's Talk Cookies on our channel, you'll see what the short will look like. It's already done. It's ready to go. So we can just like cut and paste people's recipes in. And the recipe will be in the description of the video. In the form, and ask you whether you're going to give us permission to put it in a cookbook, because that's only going to go all to good. I don't feel as if, I never felt if we did turn it into a somewhat of a downloadable thing, that I felt right taking any of the, giving my mom any of the, the profits off of that needs to go to something good. We need to bless it forward somehow. That's what Christmas is all about.
Well,
so
I know the one night in your chat, when you were talking about it, I was like, wouldn't it be great if you could do a cookbook? And then that was the next thing you started talking about, that y'all had already, thought about that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I would buy a cookbook like that, especially, have all the stories and the recipes,
And, the one thing that we're going to start doing next year is allowing people that if you have a recipe, now I can't guarantee you I'm going to make all of them, but if you have a recipe you want to share with the channel, go ahead and send it. And at the end of the year, we could do something, and then be able to take that and put it into something, and then do it for some kind of good, be able to just be another blessing forward somehow. But you can run it however you want. You can choose when you're going to throw in a giveaway, a gift card or whatever, then just you announce that whenever you want to announce it. What I didn't want to happen too is I didn't want to copycat Gail. She's done so well with the Fall Fest.
Right.
That's hers. She's running it her way. And I wanted it to stand by itself. I didn't want to go, okay, let's just take this and just make it.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. Right. And again, I wanted to bring people in that did not have content that said, I want to show my recipe, but no, I don't want to do it on my channel. So this is the only way I could think of. And if people don't think that they can make those that have channels think you're not going to get many people that are going to subscribe to your channel over a short. You can. You never
Oh,
know what short's going to do it.
that's right. That's right. And I never realized how many subscribers you actually get from shorts until I found out that little analytic button on the short itself. And it tells you how many shares, how many comments, how many views, how many subscribers. And I was like, wow, you
Yep.
can get a lot of subscribers off of a good short. And
You
it's a way for them to get a little idea about the channel and maybe go and check it out. They may not subscribe, but they might, and then they might check it out. But as far as the Fall Fest goes, I got so many new friends
yeah.
from doing that, and not people that just did it because of the Fall Fest or because of the giveaways or anything like that. I feel like those channels were channels I just hadn't gotten around to meeting yet. And now that I've met them, now they're part of my group that I watch. I want to
We
say hello to some people because I have not done a good job in the chat. We've got I'm going to go backwards. So Mimi's Place and Mama of Forever, Northern Woman, Gail Southern Living, Misha Lee, Karen, and I don't want to slaughter your last name, but I'm going to say Karen G. Yarn Works by Lydia, Lucy Warren's World, PJ's Wish. Hi, PJ. I got something coming to you in the mail. The Country Bumpkin, Creative Soil. Let's see who else. Y'all been talking up a storm. Quiet Listener.
It's all about connection.
That's right. And Sandy Wandy. I want to make her a moderator. I didn't.
Sandy Wandy, she's part of my crew.
Okay. Well, she's now a moderator on my side.
And Gail, I know it's the highest form of flattery, and I understand that. And I thought about that. But again, the reason why we're doing it the way we're doing it is because I thought, how can I bring in people that may say, like I said, they don't have content. They don't want to do content. They don't want to do a video, but I have a great recipe. And this was the only way I could figure out how to do it in my head.
Kristen from Bella's Whisper Farmstead, Lisa D, Empowering Living 70 Plus. Did I get everybody? 49 more. I think I may have got everybody now. Because I will stop and recognize people as they come in without. And I just realized that my chat on my computer stopped at 12:17. So all of those were after. And Gail said, Mary, did you get your music box?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And two, and I thought, well, by allowing the channels that want to do videos to do videos and do their own giveaway if they choose to, that's how the bringing in the Gail part of it a little bit in there is allowing that to all happen. I did a video with yarn, and it short ended. It got 10,000 views, and I picked up 50 subscribers. So and again, it's not about the subscriber count. It's about the connections.
Yes.
And that's what's even more important. That's why I thought, how can we take this out of YouTube into those people that have Facebook so they can be in a private group and start to connect with each other there. And that's why I thought, well, everybody that gives a recipe can start then connecting within the Facebook group and making those connections and making those friends. Tommy with the Lifeboat says we should have 5 people that we can go to if there's something happening as an addict or someone that's just dealing with hard times. We all should have a 5. And in our 5, and I've got 5, and I've got more than that, is people I know that I can go to. I have a wonderful family. Those that know me, I know I have Mr. Blessed to Crochet, and I have a wonderful family. But when I have, friends, that's something I haven't had a lot in my life, and I now have, and it means the world.
I have two friends. One has been my friend for about 36, 37 years. The other one about 12 years. But both of them, I could call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I'm stranded, blah, blah, blah. Come get me. And they would not hesitate. And I would not hesitate for them. But they're not friends that are in my life every day. We have our own lives. We get together when we can. But it's not like an everyday thing like it is like with my daughter. I see her, talk to her every day. But I know that if they need me, they're going to call me. And the same thing with me. If I need them, I'll call them.
Amazing thing.
It's an amazing thing. It is. And I have friends that I've made on YouTube that I never expected. I never thought I would do anything more than just casual chit chat with somebody. I never thought about that. But yet that's what I was looking for and that's what I needed. But I never realized it. And some people will say to me, what is it about YouTube? Why do you want to do YouTube? And I'm like, I can't really explain it other than if you get bit by the bug, you'll know what it is.
Yes. And I the lady that's over in Australia, she's hoping to come here next year. And I'm like, my husband's like, I'm in trouble. Because when we talk, we could be on the phone for 2 hours talking. And it's like we've known each other all our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then on November the 9th, we have our monetization celebration. I know Gail is giving some stitch markers. So any other channel that wants to participate either on screen or donate something for that, we're going to be giving, we do our connection cakes through our merch store. So we're going to be offering one of these. If you have a channel, these are great to be able to lift a cupcake and say happy birthday to somebody who's having a birthday. And then we were down yesterday in the Amish country down at Walnut Creek Cheese and Market down there. And my husband picked up Christmas jelly and he wanted to donate that. And then we also are going to be putting these in the merch store, which is the things for the oven. That you put over the oven. So you put a towel through here.
Oh, okay.
And it hangs. So we can make these in a lot of different colors, and we're going to. But then these I thought were so fun for Christmas. Yeah. So we're going to include these with the jam. We're going to include two of them. And they're done with the acrylic candles. So they're really sturdy. They're washable. But then my mom said, you got to figure out something, Mary. She said, because I'm tired of picking up the hand towels from the oven. They'd fall down. And as someone who has a very terrible back, it was painful to bend down all the time to pick up the things that dropped. And so I came up with these, and we have not had to pick up our towels because they go. But these would be so much fun getting ready for Christmas. And then, of course, we're going to be doing and giving some of our soap caddies away. But you've had the honor of having those.
Yes. And I love mine.
Yes.
I got the, because I don't wear makeup and I don't really do any kind of skincare or anything. But somebody had told me about the Dove soap. And when I got the soap caddy, I was like, I got to get Dove soap and try it. And I was like, when we had to leave to go to the hotel, I was like, make sure I get my soap caddy with me, because even if I don't have anything else, I'll be able to do my face, But yeah, I love mine.
The thing for the oven is not in the merch store yet, and there's other stuff in there too. But the Blessed Connection cakes, which actually Sandy Wendy came up with, she was the one that said, you got to do those cupcakes in the merch store. I said, well, you come up with the name. So she did. But these are in the merch store. These will make great gifts for upcoming Christmas thing to have, but you just put your bar of soap in here. They're 100% cotton. We have ours hanging in our shower. I have never had a mold issue happen. No problem. And then once the soap is done, you throw them in the washer and you just hang them dry and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your washcloth and everything all in one, and you use the soap till the very end, and then you don't have the little pieces of soap.
Yeah.
And those that are crocheters like me know that when we have multiple projects, I have about, no joke, about 6 blankets going at once right now. Sometimes she'll put down a project out of absolute frustration and say, I'm putting it down. And then you go back to it going, what size hook was I using 3 projects ago? I'm going to try to attempt this one again. And people don't realize if you've used a 5 and you go and say, think it was a 5.5, it can throw off your entire project. So we're in the process of making these out of paint pour, which I love doing. It's another way, it's very relaxing art. And putting the number, hook size on here and putting them on like stitch markers. And making these available so that when you're ending a project and you want to put it away for a little bit, you can remember what hook size you left with. So you're not going, okay, about 5 rows in, you're going, I've used the wrong hook size.
See, that would be my thing. I would have one hook.
Yeah.
Like, it had to have been this hook. This is the only hook I have, you know. Yep. But yeah.
And I've got to get our stock of soap caddies going again. I was kind of, our pastor from our church is retiring, so I did a blanket for him. The church asked me to do it. And then doing that, another couple in our church said, I have several grandchildren. Can you make blankets? I'm like, okay. So I've gotten busy doing those, and we've got a craft show coming up. That was one of the reasons why when you were asking me the different times, I'm like, well, Wednesday's usually our therapy day, but it's not because our therapist couldn't meet today. And then the next couple of Saturdays are busy, and I'm like, I don't know what else to come on.
It's so funny because I have the grandbaby Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Most Wednesdays, I can get her down for a nap and do a live. Mondays, nah, she's not in the swing of things. And by Friday, forget it. She's, full blast weekend. So I know by Wednesday, I should be able to have an hour or two to myself.
Yeah.
And then, I don't want to be every night of the week online, but I was like, I could do it on a Saturday or something, but I had so many people that I wanted to ask. And then I was like, well, I send all the dates out. And then as people, respond, I'll fill in the dates. So then when you were like, well, what about this day? Or what about that day? I was like, we'll figure something out, because I really wanted to have you on. So I'm so glad that you did come. And
well, I'm glad I did too, because I've been seeing you. And just as a little side note, I am so grateful. You were one of the people that were so instrumental in helping us get to our watch hours. And I just want to thank you for helping us.
You are so welcome. When I first watched your channel, I was like, I don't know what it is, but I like this lady. And when you had said you needed help with that, I was like, I've got like 3 or 4 devices. It's like, no problem. I will run it till I can't run it no more. And that was before I found out about using the TV. So now I can do that as well.
I've got 4 phones outside in our garage, so I'll run those too to help people. And then Gail's, when I did the Fall Fest, that helped us. And then I was like sitting there going, it was like 995, 96. I'm like, I was waiting for the, to click over, and I put a message in the Lifeboat Facebook group, and Tommy within seconds put in there and said, I need you guys to do me a favor. And then we got over that. And then it wasn't shortly after that we got all our hours in. But it was like watching, it felt like quicksand for a while going.
Well, I didn't realize that you need to get the 1,000 subs and the hours within that first year.
Yes.
Because after that first year, it starts taking those watch hours off. So I was more concerned with the watch hours than I was with the subs. I hit my 4,000 watch hours, but I didn't have enough subs.
Yeah.
So then I started working on the subs. I got my subs up. In the meantime, the year passed, and then my hours were falling off. And so then I was like, when I have the subs, but I don't have the hours. So then I had to like, okay, we got to push now, get those hours back. So that's finally what we did. But my advice to anybody would be do both and do it within that first year.
Get it within the first year.
You're okay. If you wait until after that first year is up, it's like climbing uphill backwards,
Absolutely. And my biggest advice to people, and we've started doing something on my channel called, or our channel, my mom's channel and mine, is called YouTube Chatter. And what we're doing is I'm going back through our history and saying, this is when the first video was loaded. This is my advice. This is my advice. My biggest advice to somebody is, if you are going to stay within your niche, which if I stayed within the crochet community, they are wonderful. Love every one of them.
Yeah.
If I had stayed in the niche, I'd have been right here. The biggest way to get out of your comfort zone is step on out of it. So if you're going to stay here, you're going to stay exactly where you're going to be. I know channels, and I tell them, and they're wondering why they're still there, because you're staying within that small niche. And I started getting involved in Tuber Chat. I started getting involved with other channels and other places I never thought about doing. And that's how things grew.
Well, with me, I never had a niche because it was going to be about my life, and so I never really decided on one particular thing. And then as I did different things and got responses from that, then I was like, oh, this is good. I'll keep this and, keep doing that. But I also want to do some of this over here, And so I try to do what I want to see or what I would watch, which is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I understand that. But I also like, for instance, Indiana Backyard Gardener is living in Indiana, where like within 20 minutes of where I grew up. So we're in a chat one day and I hear her say a reference to something in Indiana. And I was like, what? I know that place, It's like, wait a minute, where in Indiana exactly, And we got to chatting about that. And now it's like, it's part of home, It's like, I've been in Georgia for 30 plus years, but that's where I grew up. That's where my childhood memories are. And so it's like, I have a connection with her simply because she lives and she knows when I say something in Indiana, she knows exactly, what I'm talking about. But I would have never thought I would meet somebody, in that kind of situation and be like, oh yeah, I'm from, I'm not from Indiana now, but I know Indiana or whatever. But it's some people you're going to connect with and they're going to be lifelong friends. And then other people are going to be casual acquaintances. But I'm just the kind of person that, I will dig at you until I get to know you. And, my friend Dagmar lives in Belgium. And she came in my live when I was doing the word game one day. And I thought she was a troll because I was so new to it. And her avatar was like a picture with like a film over it almost. And I'm like, I can't even see who, what it looks like. Yeah. So it's got to be fake, or whatever. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I got my first troll. Let me talk to this person. Why are you coming in here on a Monday morning at 8:00? We're trying to play the word game and you're in here trolling me. What is your problem?
Yeah.
Come to find out, she's a lovely woman that lives in Belgium. She's a fashion designer. And we've become very close. But if I hadn't asked her a million questions, and if she hadn't stayed around and answered my questions, exactly, I would have her off as a troll, Yeah. But then I have had other trolls that really are trolls, And I'm like, I recognize you. Boom, you're out of here.
My husband was born in Columbus, Indiana,
Okay.
and my daughter was born in Danville, Indiana.
Okay.
And we'll probably be going, possibly, well, for sure, going to Columbus around Thanksgiving because his family does a. Sometimes they'll do a Thanksgiving part or get together with the one side of the family, and the other side of the family does a Christmas party.
Oh, okay.
So
Now, Indiana is one of those places that you definitely have 4 seasons, and it's great as a kid with the snow and everything. But when I became an adult and had to shovel my car out and wait for the snowplow to come and all of that, I said, you know what? I want to go somewhere warmer. I don't want to have all that. But I really miss the change of the seasons because here in South Georgia, we have spring, summer, and fall real close. It's not much difference. And then winter really isn't even winter. It just gets a little cold. It usually doesn't even go below freezing. But
yeah.
for us to get snow is like a miracle. And it would be just the little snow furies. You
Yeah.
can look up at the street light and you might see them twirling around in the air, but they don't hit the ground.
Well, I'm a
Kind of.
Florida. I was born in Florida, so I know exactly what that's like.
Yeah.
I told my husband, who has family in Ohio, I said I will never live in Indiana, ever again in my life. I lived once there, and I've said in a very loving manner, the only good thing that came out of Indiana was my daughter. So I said to him, I said, I love you, but I said, don't ask me to ever live in Indiana again. First marriage was not good, and that's the state I ended up in. Beautiful state. Not trying to offend anybody in Indiana, but I live in the neighboring state of Ohio. I go and visit, but I don't want to live there. I love Ohio. We went down to the Amish country yesterday. If anybody's familiar with Mount Gees, I have a short on our channel I posted this morning of literally the most beautiful sunset overlooking Mount Gees. It's beautiful. And we went down to Walnut Creek yesterday. I love going down there. But we actually live, my mother was born in Aberdeen, Scotland. My grandmother lived there, and my grandfather, who was Greek, came over to Scotland and met my grandmother. And so they got married. And my mother was born over there. My grandfather then came back to the States, and they moved, of course, when my mother was 4 months old, and came over here to Mansfield, Ohio. And we are now living very close to where my mother was raised. My grandfather had a restaurant here in Mansfield, in downtown Mansfield, called the Park View and the Parkway Restaurant. So we used to come up from Florida to come up in the summertime and go to the Greek festival and all that kind of stuff here. My namesake was, lived here and so forth. There's a lot of heritage in Mansfield, Ohio. It's where Shawshank Redemption was filmed, so that prison is not very far away. And I always felt like when I came here, I felt like I was coming home. We lived in Cincinnati. We moved from Florida to Cincinnati to be close to my husband's family. And then when my daughter met her husband now on eHarmony, he lived up in this area. And so because she's my only kid.
Oh, I know. I have an only daughter too.
I said to my son, I will not be far. Not that I want to overstep, not that I want to come in and surround her, but we have, on at least my side, a very tiny family. My husband's side is much bigger. And so I just said, for Christina, who is autistic, very, very, never in my wildest dreams, I never thought she'd get married and doing such amazing things now. And I said, for her to be up here with no support, we just thought, that's not what this family does. So I said to my son-in-law, I love you. I'm not going to crowd you. And I don't, I've said to him and I've said to my daughter, the only time you will ever see me coming to your house unannounced and uninvited is if something happened to your dog, which is Mocha. She's on our channel. She's a superstar over there. And if anybody passes away in our family, I'm not telling you by phone. Other than that, I'm not coming to your home unannounced and uninvited. That to me is not okay.
That's
So I
painful.
said, outside of that, you know, and we see them at church every Sunday. So,
Well,
and we're here. My
with
daughter
my
has,
daughter, she wanted to go away to college, and I said, "That's great. Let me know where." Because at the time I was working for Walmart, and I was like, I can put in a hardship transfer and I can go to any Walmart in the country. So you go off to college. I won't bother you, but I will be there, if you need me. Well, she decided to stay home for college. But then when she got married, I told her the same thing. I will not come to your house unannounced or uninvited. You want to see me at your house, then you need to invite me, because it's your privacy. I don't
yes,
feel like you're going to live your life looking over your shoulder. Is my mother here? And she's the
yep.
kind of kid that she wants me all the time to go with her and do this, do that, or whatever. And so we would never have had a problem. But I didn't want to. Beautiful.
I did those flowers.
Yeah.
I did 8 bouquets or 8 boutonnieres. Those are solo wood flowers, so she was
Oh,
able to actually
wow.
keep them.
Uh-huh.
Um, their wood flowers are made from the bamboo. I think it's no tapioca plant, and so you get them, and they're actually ivory, and you put them in a glisten bath so that they actually get soft enough and they
Oh,
don't get brittle, and then you can dye them any kind of color you want. Well, her favorite color is turquoise, and my son-in-law's favorite color is orange. And so I said, well, if you do that, it's going to be Miami Dolphins colors, you know. And so I said, why don't you make your colors ivory or orange and copper, or turquoise and copper, and it'll give me a wide range of stuff. So I did 8 bouquets, 13 boutonnieres. Uh, I don't know how many corsages. I mean, but I think I did her flowers for about $400.
wow.
Versus exactly how much. And then all the bridesmaids got to take theirs home. She gets to take hers and see them every day and enjoy her bouquet. And they turned out stunning in the pictures for the wedding. But it's nice to know that I'm not the only mom that says exactly what you just said.
And then when she had the grandbaby, it's like,
Yep,
now you'll never get rid of me,
yep.
because wherever that baby is where I'm going to be.
That's what I've said.
And
And there's been multiple times where my daughter is not feeling well or she's sick on occasion, and we'll go, she lives about an hour away. It's not far. It's not too far, but we'll get in the car. We'll stop by Sam's Club. We'll pick up a couple chickens and we'll run up there. I'll make a soup, or, her birthday, was it last year? It was last year. And we had to meet her for something, just to spend a little time with her. And I had made her favorite clams and linguine. And I said, I made that for her, and then she was able to take that home. So it's nice. I just said, and I'm disabled. I don't drive very much, if any, partly because of the medication I'm on. And my husband is also disabled. He actually was diagnosed with a very rare genetic uh, issue last year, which, for those that don't know what Klinefelter syndrome is, um, that means that he is an XXY individual, which means he has an extra chromosome going on. And most individuals that have that, 60% don't make it to the womb or out. They're stillborn, and he didn't have prenatal care because his mother was so young. And the fact that he's even here
it's a
is a
miracle.
testimony to God. So he has some disabilities. He has diabetes and some things that, if the condition had been found out a lot sooner, he would not be dealing with half the stuff he's dealing with now. He's a 40-year-old person who has a walker and all those kind of things. But and it's hard because you go to the doctor and they say, well, if you're my patient, you're about the first patient I've seen out of the textbooks in 30 years.
Mm.
It's that rare. And so, not a lot of know how to treat it. They just throw stuff at them and say, here you go. We don't know how to treat it other than just to make you comfortable.
Yeah.
And my mother's in her almost 80s, and she's getting there. And I said to my daughter, I said, there's going to be a time where I'm going to need your help. And, you know, and I don't have anybody really else to rely on.
Right.
And so I'm not going far.
No, me
You know.
neither. I tried to raise her, to where if I needed help, she would be there to help
Yeah.
me. And that's how we're raising the granddaughter as well, that, you take care of your family. And it's very comforting to know that she's right there, and no matter what I need or what she needs or anything. And we've always been very close. But when I went through my bad divorce, she was 17. So she was old enough to know what was going on.
Yeah.
And to understand that, we were both completely blindsided and it was nothing we saw coming. And it taught her that, you can love somebody and you can be committed to somebody, things can still happen, And so, whereas I was raised, I was born in the 60s, you're supposed to be a wife and a homemaker and you do what your husband tells you and, that kind of upbringing. And I had basically raised her the same way until that happened. And then I was like, nope, flip that around. You get your own career, you have your own money, because you don't need to rely on a man. If you don't choose to be with a man, then that's fine. You have to be able to take care of yourself. And I love my son-in-law to death. I would claim him as my own child. But if he was to hurt my daughter,
Oh yeah,
all bets are off then, But
this cup doesn't say Mama Bear for any other reason but that.
Exactly. And I have told my daughter numerous times, if anybody did anything to her, my son-in-law, my granddaughter, I could kill with my bare hands.
Yeah.
I'm not a violent person, but I know I could, if it meant protecting them and them not coming in harm's way, I could do that. I don't swear. I don't drink. I don't go to bars. I'm a very conservative kind of person until you mess with my family.
That's the way.
All bets are off then. I'm not going to be responsible for what I might do. And I've told my daughter before, if I have to go to jail for the rest of my life, but it meant I saved you or saved my granddaughter, then I would do that, And other people have told me, you're just an overprotective mother. And it's like, I don't care. It took me 10 years of infertility, not infidelity, infertility to even conceive my daughter. And so she's my miracle. And I would do anything, to protect her. And my granddaughter was basically a miracle too, because a lot of the problems that I had, my daughter had as well. And it took her a long time to get pregnant as well. And then when she had my granddaughter, it was like, praise God, that's enough. You don't need to have any more. We've got the one that's good enough. Now if she was to come up and have another one, I would love it just the same. But I don't want her to, beat herself up, because I tried to have a second one after I had her because I didn't want her to be an only child. And it just was more heartbreak for me,
I was an only child and my daughter is an only child. And the condition that my husband has most likely led to him not being able to have children of his own. And I went through a very painful divorce. That's why Indiana is bittersweet for me. And my dad did the first of adoption of my daughter because of the choices that her biological father decided. He was not ready to be a father, and he needed to lovingly back away, and he did the right thing. And so my dad, in the state of Florida, somebody else can adopt a child, and you can't. I found out it's not in every state, but someone else can take over that side. And my dad said, I'll do it. And so he had that for a long period of time. was on the birth certificate. It said my name and my dad's name, even though there wasn't anything happening there. It's just the way that the birth certificate happened. And I even kept my name so that nobody thought anything that didn't need to be said there. Because of Christina's disabilities and so forth, and because of some of the benefits she was able to receive. My dad served in the military. We did not, my husband, when we got married, we were friends for years prior to that. And it's a whole different story in itself. My husband now, my dad said, I can't give you the adoption of Christina because of everything. But when the year came up, Christina very much wanted to have her last name match ours. So my dad paid for that to happen. And then when my dad passed away in 2021, and then of course, after Christina got married, any benefits that my dad would have passed on to her stopped because of everything, because she was getting married. So my dad's dream at that point was to say, if, Josh can, I want him very much to adopt Christina when she feels he's able to and wants to. So this year it was official, and she was able to, Josh was able to officially adopt her. And I said, how lucky can a girl be to be adopted twice in your life?
Exactly.
But she very much wanted it. And from day one, he has treated Christina as his own. He said, that's my daughter. He was the one that walked her down the aisle. And I have a picture of him, just her at the wedding, and her hand is over his heart, and he's just crying when he saw his daughter for the first time, because she didn't show him his wedding dress. She said, I want it to be a surprise. So the first look, he said, I tried hard not to cry, and he just lost it. That was his baby girl. So he came into her life, and the Lord gave him a child without it coming naturally. And he just loved her as it was his own, and it was beautiful. If you didn't know that they weren't father and daughter biologically, you would think it's because I'm like, you guys act the same way. I love the two of you, but you're like, and I think from looking at her past and his past, there may even be a point where they were actually cousins at one point. I don't know if that's true, but we found out that she was related, we think, to Jesse James, and my husband is related to Jesse James. And so where the genealogy comes in, there's a lot of names that kind of the last names are similar. So there may even be that they may be kind of long lost cousins, which would be really ironic.
Well, yeah. Stranger things, I'm sure it happened.
But he's taken her on as his daughter 100%, and it was such a blessing to our family. So I know my dad looked down and he'd have loved that, because you ask, my husband didn't have a father really growing up very much. And if you say to him, who is my dad? He'll say, it's my dad.
Yeah.
So my dad looked at my husband as a son. And so he would have loved that he was able to adopt Christina and make it official. So that was a blessing this year, amongst other blessings.
Well, family that you choose for your own is much better sometimes than blood family is.
Oh, yes.
So, my son-in-law had a very bad childhood and lost his mom when he was like 5 years old, and was kind of taken from relative to relative. And he's got some half brothers and sisters that he really didn't grow up with. And his dad was kind of in and out of his life. And so when he met my daughter, she was hurting from us going through the divorce and everything. And so he could understand what she had lost. She couldn't really as much understand his loss, but they were enough on the same wavelength that they could be there emotionally to support each other. And I was so worried about my daughter not finishing high school or not going on to college, or, anything could happen. That's a beautiful picture to have. But, anything could have happened because of the divorce. And so about 2 years into them dating, something came up and my daughter got emotional. And normally she would have come to me to comfort her. And she went straight to him. And it would like sealed the deal in my mind,
Yeah.
you know, that she has made that connection with him, that he is her emotional comfort.
That's what
And,
my daughter did.
you know, after that, I was like, you know, he's going to really have to mess up for me to, you know, not care about him like I do. And I would tell him that, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, I just hope you don't mess up because I love you, you know. And when I had to have my Achilles tendon surgery, I had to be in the bed for about 3 months or so, and I didn't know if I would get my disability or if I would still be on my work disability or whatever. So they were like, "Well, we'll get a bigger place and we'll just live with you and help you with bills and whatever, you know, until you're back on your feet or whatever."
Mm.
And so one day we were in the kitchen, he and I said, you know, I know you love my daughter, but now I know you love me too,
Yeah.
you know. And he was like, well, yeah, you're my mom. Why would I not love you? You know, and I'm like, well, I'm just, you know, I'm saying that's how I feel about you, but it's
Yeah.
nice to know that you're not doing this just because she's my daughter. And, you know, it's like you're helping me because you want to help me, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I will never, ever have anything bad to say about him. He's one of a kind.
Yeah. Well, when my daughter got married, when I was growing up, my dad, they don't have it anymore. It was called Indian Princesses, and the fathers, and it was through the YMC. The fathers and the daughters would come together. They would go to meetings every month. They would go to campouts and so forth. And when they got old enough, they would do what was called break the arrow.
Oh.
They break the arrow and they would throw half the arrow in the fire and so forth as a semblance of the breaking of the arrow. Well, my daughter and my dad, and then eventually my husband, you know, he participated in Indian Princesses with my daughter and his granddaughter and so forth, but they never got to break the arrow. So when my daughter got married, she didn't know we were doing this. We sat, my daughter and my son-in-law, on a seat. And I explained the story and I said, okay, Christina, and you saw her face. She wasn't expecting that. She was surprised. And I said, you're going to break the arrow. And she broke the arrow. And I said, now, I don't think the place here would like us to do a campfire, but we're not. We're going to pretend the arrow, of course, the head of the protection was, you know, my husband and the protective of her dad. And, you know, the middle was Christina and then the end was her family. And so she broke the arrow, and then my husband went and took the front of the arrow and handed it to my son-in-law and said, now I'm turning over the headship of protection to you, and we'll all, you know, go towards the back of the arrow. And that was a symbol between my husband and my son-in-law. And they shook hands and he handed him the arrow, which was just so special.
Yeah.
You could see her face on it was like she wasn't expecting that.
That's always good when you can do something like that because it makes that memory. I'm a firm believer in collecting memories and experiences over material possessions or items. I don't think people in today's society really put the value on those kind of memories and experiences. And I'm lucky enough that with my granddaughter now, there are things that my daughter will say, Mom, you remember when I was this age and we went here or did this? And
Yep.
now she's carrying on those things with her daughter. And it's almost like validation that all those things that I did that I didn't think she even knew or paid attention to, they're in there, you know, she remembers. And it's just really cool to see them together and see the mother that she is becoming, you know. It's amazing to me. I'm so glad that I got that opportunity to be a mother and to see her become a mother. it's really
And that's
special.
one of the reasons why we wanted to do the cookie connection. We're hoping that maybe it would bring some people that want to do a recipe and start a tradition with their kids,
Right.
and be able to send that cookie recipe. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to do the shoe boxes for Samaritan's Purse. I actually went to school with Billy Graham's his granddaughter, Jerusha Chilingarian. So I have a little tie to Billy Graham through that. So that's one of the reasons I picked Samaritan's Purse. But again, it is then becomes a tradition on our channel, and it again, it builds that community and that connection. And that's what the cookie connection, it's about building the community and building those connections. And I really encourage people, when the shorts will be put up, they're going to be put up in a way that's going to have all the shorts together, those with content and those without. Go and explore and make those connections. Don't worry necessarily if it's somebody with a channel. Take a moment and hit that subscribe button. It makes a huge difference. You don't realize it, but it does.
Yes,
Go and
it
watch
does.
some of their stuff. But go ahead and go and pay attention. You go explore their channel. I do that a lot. I'll hit the avatar and I'll go to the other channel and I'll say, oh, I didn't find out about this, about this channel, and go ahead and go into it. And pay attention and start making those connections within those shorts and within those comments, and then bring it even full circle and go into that Facebook group that we've created as a way of making more connection. You may find some friends that, okay, these people that are behind the screen, Echo is a person, I am too, and we're just the same as we are.
That's right.
Changes.
There are some people on Facebook that are not what they appear, but I'm about as real as they come, because I could not keep myself in a role or trying to be somebody that I wasn't. It would come across so phony and so fake, and I couldn't do it. But there are some people that they're funny, and I think, well, that must be put on. That must be the way that they're putting on for YouTube, and then you do get connected with them and you find out that's just them. But other people probably think, yeah, well, that's a little over the top. But I love it. And I love all the people you were talking about, the airline ticket getting paid for. When we had to leave with the hurricane and all, somebody asked in the chat, do you have a Cash App? And I was like, well, I do, but why would you need that? I'm like totally taken back by it. And they were like, well, just give it to us, and then money started coming into the Cash App. And I was like, I could not believe it. I was just blown away that people were giving money. And I mean, there's so many people that were affected by both the hurricanes that, really they lost their homes. All we lost was power. We just had to go stay in a hotel. It wasn't that traumatic, but people wanted to help. And
I know I couldn't necessarily help, but I shared your stuff. I shared it and said, go see if you don't, go ahead and help. But this is what people made happen.
Yeah. I'm so glad that she was well enough to come, because it could not
never happen again.
No. No. But
they
goes away from you either.
No, the cancer may have hit, but they're not taking the memories. And
no. And it probably meant more to her that she had family that wanted her to come.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And
because
you can't take this memory from my daughter.
When you find out it's terminal, a lot of people can't deal with that, And tend to back away. And I have a good friend that just lost her husband. And matter of fact, I just got a sympathy card, and I had the hardest time writing in that card because I've not lost a husband, but I've lost my father. I lost my best friend when I was 14. I know what that loss is like. One of my best friends has lost both of her parents, and I had to pray that God would give me the words to say, because I was totally at a loss for that. But we can't have love if we don't also have grief.
Yeah, exactly.
If we don't love, there is no grief. And
no.
Unfortunately, the as much as you love someone, that's as much as you're going to grieve for that person. And it's not anything to do with the fact that that person is, maybe in a better, like my dad died of cancer. He suffered terribly.
Yeah.
I was so thankful he was no longer suffering, but I was so mad at God that he took him away from me before I was ready to not have a dad, and it took me a lot of years to realize that I believe God may have taken him when he did to prevent his future suffering. If he had lived in the condition he was in, he may have suffered even more than I saw him suffering. And so it was a blessing that God took him, but not to me. It took me a long time to understand, how could a loving God take my father when I was 18 and not be there for me in all the things in my life to come after that, But now I know that nobody can ever take my dad from me. He's always with me, and he knows exactly what's happened in my life, and he's been there every step of the way, and I'm okay with it. I can't believe, as much of a Christian as I am, that I was actually angry at God for quite a few years. And it took a lot of working through things to get to the point that I am not angry anymore. But I also know that there's going to be a lot of loss in my lifetime. And that's a consequence of loving people, and I'm not willing not to love somebody just so that it doesn't hurt me if they go.
Well,
So.
I was actually angry, and I didn't expect to grieve the way I did, because I thought, my dad's gone. He's out of suffering. We weren't able to be with him when he passed away because of the C word. And I expected just, okay, he's fine. I should be relieved. I actually was going back to before he got the dementia. And I was going back and grieving that man, because 7 years were stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have stories. Everybody has a story. You don't have to do it in front of a camera. I would be more than willing, if you have a story that you want to tell, you don't have to show your face. You can not be on camera, but if you want your voice, if you have a story and you want to come on our channel and tell it, I'd be more than glad to talk with you and have you on and share your story, because you can be someone else's survival guide. I'm dealing with fibromyalgia. My dad had dementia. My grandfather had multiple sclerosis. I've raised an autistic individual. I've been an autistic mom. I'm dealing with a husband who has diabetes, a daughter that has diabetes. I've had alcoholics and addicts in my family. I've had a lot of things happening and have happened that I can come on and at least talk about and give people a safe space. If you're a channel that goes places and goes on hikes or goes different places or so forth, and you want us to come along and share it to my community, great, because there's people that are caretaking for people that can't maybe go out of the house very often, or are dealing with, like I am, which is dealing with a chronic illness, that have their good days or bad days. Or maybe they're dealing with an autistic child or a special needs child. I know when I used to go to work, come home, try to help her with her homework from what little I could, be able to fix dinner, and then have dinner. I was exhausted because I had to get up and go to work the next day.
Mhm.
Going out of the house and trying to do something was almost impossible. And if it was, we didn't go to Chuck E. Cheese's because it was too overwhelming. And there was a lot of places that we couldn't go to because she couldn't handle it.
Right.
My daughter also had a service dog, so I know a lot of experience on how that all happened. And I was in Walnut Creek yesterday, and there was a service dog, and I said, "Okay, guys, sidestep here a minute. Let's teach you what you should be doing if you see a service dog." And the only reason I know what to do is because I was there. Do you see? I'm
Right.
not going up to the dog. I'm paying attention like the dog doesn't exist. Let's have an educational lesson right here. you know, and sometimes we'll have my daughter on and we'll talk about mother and daughter issues and about her autism, and it's actually helped her. She has a channel. It's called Chrissy's Cosplay Wardrobe, and she actually has a channel. She was kind of bummed that we got her channel monetized before her, and I'm like, I'll help you, I promise. But she is wonderful at cosplay, and so she's come by having my channel kind of open up for her a little bit. She's kind of come in a position of not looking at her autism as a negative. But I said, do you realize the people that you can affect by sharing your story and sharing who you are? That if you're dealing with somebody with autism, it's not the stigma everybody thinks it is. They can do amazing things, even if they are autistic.
I just, my daughter is a school teacher, and she deals with all kinds of children. She has a classroom of gifted children, regular children, special needs children, autistic children, behavioral problem children, the whole gamut, all in one class. And she has got to get on their level, figure
Yeah.
out what makes that child tick, how to get through to that child, and do it all within the confines, of
Yeah.
the educational system. There are so many teachers who are burned out and do
Yep.
not take the time. And my daughter is one that it's almost like she sees it as a personal challenge to get through to that child,
Exactly.
whatever that means, however it means. She told me yesterday that a little boy, and she teaches third grade, so they're like 9 or 10, 8 or 9, 10. He had been at the school, had a lot of behavioral issues, had left the school for a few months and has just came back. Something went on, but instead of him reacting to that situation, he went to my daughter and he said, I know so and so is trying to get me to fight him, but I'm not going to fight him because you told me that I need to do my work and I don't need to be distracted by him or
Exactly.
anybody else. And she was like, here's a piece of candy, sit down right here, you do your work, let me deal with him.
Yeah.
And she said she could not believe that he has been listening to her and decided to act upon it instead of just fighting and getting himself into trouble.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, that's why you're in the perfect situation. Sometimes she'll say, how can I have a gifted child and then have a child that's the lowest child? How can I, teach them together? And it's like, you can't. You have to teach them individually. You cannot
Yeah.
expect them to be on the same level. But it just makes my heart feel so good that she chose to do that career. And no matter how bad it gets or how hard it is, she's not burned out. She doesn't want to stop doing it. She worries about those kids. During that hurricane, she was more concerned about those kids and their living situation than she was with her own.
Yeah. Well, when my daughter went, she went to a private school for years, and then she went to a public because we were trying to get her into a wonderful. She ended up at Center Academy, which had about 88 kids in it and small, not a lot of transitioning going on, which is difficult for those with autism.
Right.
And she I went there, and it was probably about the first day in, and the vice principal said to me, can we have a little meeting? And I said, sure. And so my mom and I went in first day and everything, and she started talking a little bit about an action plan because my daughter had never had an IEP in a public school or anything. And she just looked at me shortly after in this thing, and she said, I hear that Christina has a service dog. And I said, yes, we got Jordan in July. We didn't know at that point she was going to be diagnosed with diabetes shortly after that, or she'd have been a dual diagnosis dog. But at the time, it was for autism. We got him in July. It started making a huge difference. Christina, prior to Jordan, would sit there and go, make this, hold her breath. And very shortly after we got Jordan, that all stopped. And she had trouble sleeping. That all seemed to work itself out because autistic individuals sleep better with a warm body next to them. Mm-hmm. So she just looked at me. She said, I hear Christina has a service dog. And she said, are you planning for eventually that service dog to integrate in the school? And I'm like, if need be, absolutely. She said to me, point blank, she said, well, we have a lot of ASD kids, which is autism spectrum disorder kids within our school, and none of them have service dogs. I looked dead straight at her. I said, ma'am, I can care letter one or all of them have service dogs. If it's something my daughter needed and it's benefiting to her, that's what she got. And if you've got a problem with it, I'm really sorry, but you're barking up the wrong tree. Mm-hmm. I was like, if I wanted to just reach across, and then we were sitting in a meeting, no joke, with a bunch of her teachers who were finding her having trouble struggling because everything was a transition. Her reading class went from that. They broke for lunch in this noisy lunchroom. It would have been so much better if they had put her in a quiet space for lunch. Then went back to reading. Then at 1:00 went to math, which was a terrible time for math. And so she found a paperclip and she was fooling around with the paperclip. And the teacher said to me the other day, this math teacher, she was fooling around with the paperclip. And I said, so? She goes, I took it away from her. I said, well, just so you know, I'm going to make sure there's about 100 paper clips within her backpack. She goes, what do you mean? She wasn't paying attention. I said, absolutely, she was paying attention. And she was probably paying much more attention to you with the paper clip in her hand than she was without, because she was transitioning from reading to lunch, back to reading, back to math. She was trying to transition, and that's how she was making herself comfortable. Mm-hmm. So guess what went in her backpack the next day? A pack of paper clips. And I said, don't you ever take one away from my daughter. She wasn't there for very long. She was pulled out. She was pulled out by the end of the month. I mean, it lasted about one semester and she was gone. And we put her in online school for about 1.5 years. And we went through a terrible 2013 where there was a lot of transition. She winded up with diabetes too. And so I was grateful that she was in that environment. And then when the math became too much for my husband to figure out, it was time to find a school. And she spent the rest of the 4.5 years at Center Academy, and her graduating class was 17. And where she was, everyone knows what happened at Parkland, Florida, with that incident on Valentine's Day, way back ago. She was 10 minutes from that school. So some of her classmates had brothers and sisters and friends at that school. So they actually had to bring counselors into the school to deal with that because, they had kids that were reacting. But all of them were special needs kids. They did very little transitioning. They worked at their pace. Wonderful, wonderful environment. And then she went to a friend's graduation. There was all these people graduating. And I said, which did you prefer? She goes, my graduation. Because they had a little graduation. They had a dinner afterwards. They had a banquet hall. It was just 17. It was close. It was wonderful. She said, no, I liked my graduation better because it was just a little bit.
Well, my daughter, partner teacher, she teaches math and science, and he does the social studies and the reading and all that. And they work so closely together with those kids
Yeah.
that if there is a transition problem or if there is, an issue, they will swap those kids, and
Yeah.
take the time to figure out what that child is needing at the time instead of just saying, oh, well, they're acting out today,
Yeah.
and she just really she is now this year she's the grade chair for her team. And before she was the grade chair, her grade chair didn't fight for them.
Yeah.
They would, she would tell them things and say, well, this is what they said, we're going to do. And my daughter would be like, that's not what the children need us to do. This is what, so now that they put her in that position, she will go to the administration and she will explain to them, I know these kids. This is what is best for this group of kids. And they don't balk at it. They're
Yeah.
like, okay, second grade, fourth grade, the parents are in there all the time complaining their child's not getting this, that, the other thing. And I told my daughter, I said, you need to talk to those grade chairs for those other grades and let them know that they can go to the administration and the administration will be on the kid's side,
Exactly.
and she's in I don't know how you call it, a title something or another school. It's not the wealthiest school. It's not the worst school in the whole district, but it's not the best school. She could teach in a private school and do wonderfully, but she prefers to be where she's at because she knows she's making a difference with the kids that she works with.
At the
And
graduation, they released 17 butterflies in memory of the 17 people lost at Stoneman Douglas. And Colleen, we've had on our channel, we've actually had two of Christina's former behavioral therapists that came in the home. One was her maid of honor, who has turned into a behavioral therapist, into a mentor, like a sister. And the other one had a conflict, or she was supposed to be a bridesmaid. But we've actually had them two on our channel and my daughter discussing behavioral therapy in the home and their journey. And we're going to be doing more with them together to kind of have that discussion, because I don't think that it's something that is too aware of people. That actually, I think that there can be much more benefit to having behavioral therapy come within the home with some of these children, and much more effective. My daughter would not be where she is today without her behavioral therapist, without her service dog. I'm a big advocate for service dogs with autistic individuals, huge advocate for it. I think every child that's not afraid of one, and there are children that are afraid of dogs, needs to have one, because it can be a tremendous asset for the individual. I don't think we realize the impact that a service dog has for a child. My daughter went through horseback riding lessons, horseback therapy, and now she is actually working as a cashier, which just blows my mind. And she's also working in a horse stable, and she loves it. She is so good with animals. And
well,
so it's
they've
just
done
amazing.
studies that just interaction with animals for anyone, it lowers your stress level. And I am sure that is something that autistic individuals
Yes.
can benefit from.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a big advocate for animals and against puppy mills and animal cruelty and all of that. I think too many people don't realize the responsibility of having an animal as a pet, and then they get the animal, and then because the animal is not trained properly and they don't know what to do, and then it's a bad situation, and then they wind up at the pound. And I don't know, I have a hard time with that kind of situation. And a lot of people are like, oh, my child wants a dog. Okay, but you realize it's the child that you're going to get a dog. That means you have a dog. That does not mean your child is going to be able to take care of the dog. They can help you, of course, but you still have to be responsible enough to know you're going to take care of that. Heck, half of these people don't take care of their children like they should, yet alone their animals.
Well, Mocha is an actual staff. She's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. God love her. But when Jordan passed away, it was a huge loss for Christina because Jordan went almost everywhere with Christina that could be. And we started fostering dogs. We had several dogs that we fostered. And when Mocha came along, it's probably about the fourth foster in, she said, Mom, I can't let her go. Well, she was about a year and a half, and she can't have Mocha where she's currently living. But Mocha was actually held by the collar and choked by neighborhood kids that thought it was funny. And then she was taken to her second home where she was beaten every time she did something wrong. We think probably we probably think that's my daughter holding her. We think that she was actually probably crate abused at one point. And so because my daughter can't have her currently where she's at, Staffies they're part of the bully breed. They've got a knock against them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did try to rehome her just because my husband, and that's one of the reasons too we started the channel, is because my husband needs a diabetic service dog. That's another whole discussion in its own. And we really felt like Mocha's a one dog home. And, the agency that we were going to get his service dog from required us to give up, only have one dog. Mm-hmm. So if we go the private route, which we can work with a dog trainer to help us facilitate Mocha still in the home, then I'm going to, people better be sitting down. It costs $15,000 to get Jordan for Christina when she was a teenager. It was worth every penny. Yeah. A service dog will cost $20,000 now for my husband. We're not talking about chump change, but there's a very special training that has to go in for these individuals and for these dogs. And so, but my fear of trying to find the right owner for Mocha, it's taken us 2 years to get a vet's office that understands her and is working with her. She has to be sedated for every exam, every nail trim, everything, because she wasn't properly socialized. She was abused heavily. And so what happens with Mocha, she says, I'm going to show you how bad I can be. Mm-hmm. I want to show you that I'm going to be bad.
Self-preservation mode. She's not.
I'm going to show you
what happened to her. Yeah.
She can be scared to death by a fly. Mm-hmm. She can be a sweetheart of a dog, but I'm going to grit my teeth. I'm going to growl at you. I'm going to show you how tough I'm going to be because I've been hurt too much in my life. Mm-hmm. So our fear is if we did, she would be a revolving door, and we love her too much. She's been through too much.
Yeah, that
we're just not going to do that. Heartbreaking for her. No, it's it. She's where she's going to be, and so we were very hesitant. So our only route to go for my husband is to go through a private agency that can help transition a dog appropriately in here for Mocha to know how to be able to, handle another dog in the home. Mm-hmm. But Mocha can be a little bit of she can look very intimidating. She's not going to bite at all, but she's been abused heavily and not shown what love is. And so out of all the dogs my daughter had to choose, it was Mocha, and she's not a coffee drinker. And I said to her when she adopted her, I said, you can change her name. And she goes, no, I want it to be Mocha. But Mocha, everybody in our channel loves Mocha. We call them the Mocha clan. We have mugs on our thing with their little head tilted. And so she's somebody that's loved very much on our channel. And so we love her. I'll sit a lot of times on the couch and crochet, and she'll be underneath the blanket, all snuggled up and everything. It's like she's got to have that time about once a week. The couch underneath the blanket. I got like a pashmina for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And I had to get the dog the matching her own pashmina. Because it was all soft and everything, but she kept clawing at me because she wanted the pashmina. Mm-hmm. I had to go buy her own pashmina.
Well, my little Chloe, she is a Chihuahua Dachshund mix, and she got mixed the worst way possible. She has a Chihuahua bottom jaw and a Dachshund upper jaw. So when she bites down, she's biting in the middle of her upper jaw. And
Oh,
she's got the short front legs, but the longer back legs. And so her gait is kind of off, because of that.
she's a
So,
cutie though.
oh, she's cute. And when I got her, I got her when she was only 5 weeks old because the people weren't taking care of them. And
Yeah.
I was like, just let me go ahead and take her. So I had to bottle feed her and everything. And I would lay her on my chest, which she fit in the palm of my hand when I got her. I would lay her on my chest after she would eat and things. And so when she'd have a treat, she'd come want to be on my chest. Well, when she got to be 14 pounds, that's a little much to be jumping on your chest, to have
Yeah.
a treat.
Yeah.
Before, in my recliner, she would have to sit on me. There wasn't room beside me to sit. Now there's room. She can lay down there beside me in the chair. And
Yeah.
so now it's like you can't get her out of the chair. Before it was like she would jump up on me, she'd try to get comfortable, she'd paw at me, trying to, make it softer, I guess, or whatever. And now it's like she'll get her blanket, she gets up there in that little side of the chair, and she's there for the night. So,
My husband Mocha will sit on the footrest with my husband. She enjoys that.
but my dog does not
She's so
really like
doable.
anybody else. I mean, she tolerates the other people that are in her life, but if she thinks somebody's too close to me,
Yeah.
or somebody knocks at the door loudly or anything like that, she will be crazy. And then when I put her in the other room, people are like, well, she's not so mean when she's in there. It's like she's a little dog, she
Yeah.
shouldn't be so violently upset about things, but she is. That's just her personality.
Well,
And
Mocha's the same way. Mocha
she'll
will
be
be like,
12 she'll be 12 in December. And before we went away for the hurricane, she had got to where she was going around in circles, and she would like approach the couch 2 or 3 times before she would jump up onto the couch. And sometimes she would even look at me like she didn't know who the heck I was.
yeah.
And so we took her with us to the hotel, and she got extra cuddles and, extra walks and all of that. She is like a puppy now. She is jumping all over the place and wants to go out all the time. And I'm like, that trip did her a world of good because,
Socializing is so important.
yeah.
And,
So now it's like every time I get ready to go somewhere, she's right there at the door, like, I'm going. I know I'm going. It's like, no, not.
Mocha's gotten out a couple of times, not very much, but she's gone out a couple. And people are so scared, and rightfully so. I mean, this dog is coming at you a million miles a minute, barking and
Yeah.
growling and all this. She's never bit. She's not going to bite. She's just going to be like, she takes with my aunt. It took her a while to warm up to my aunt. And then she was like all over her. And she even slept in her bed one night with her. She's been too hurt and too abused in her life that she's like, I got to show you how bad I am. But then she's scared of a fly. I mean,
Yeah.
she'll go hide underneath the thing like it's like, oh my goodness gracious, there's a fly. Hysterical to watch her.
Well, my daughter, before she had moved out, she had a cat, and the cat did not like the dog. And one day the dog was in the kennel, in the back of the kennel, and the cat got up on top of the kennel and put her paws into the kennel to claw at the dog. And after that, I cannot have a cat. You cannot have a cat when you're out walking her. She cannot see a cat, smell a cat, anything. She goes crazy. But she was very traumatized by this hissing, clawing, cat.
Yeah.
And my daughter was actually gone away on a trip, and I was watching the cat. And I called her up and I said, your cat just tried to attack my dog. And she's like, well, what was the dog doing? And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. You don't blame the dog. The dog was in the kennel, minding her own business.
Yeah.
I said, I wish I had the forethought to grab my phone and videotape the cat on top of the kennel trying to get to the dog, but I didn't. I was screaming at the cat. And I said,
We're allergic to cats, so we can't have cats.
I said, you love your cat and that's all fine and good, but my dog and your cat, They're not friends at all.
Yeah.
So now it's like I would love to have a cat, but I can't
Mhm.
have any other animal with Chloe because
Yeah.
Chloe is the queen and she's not going to have it. It would not work out, you know. So
People
I'm
don't
in
realize
that same boat. I have to keep Chloe because who's going to want to rehome
that's
her,
the
you
same
know?
way we feel about Mocha.
Yeah. So,
And people don't realize you can go foster dogs. You don't have to take on, if you cannot afford a dog, there are dogs
mhm,
that need to get into homes that just need a break from the shelter. It gives
mhm,
the shelter a wonderful take of what the dog really is, because sometimes they don't get a good take in the shelter. And you can do that. They will cover a lot of their medical expenses and some of their food and some of their other expenses, and it just gives the dog a break. But you can go to any shelter, you can go take them away for the day, you can go take them for a walk, you can do other things to assist the shelter. And it doesn't have to be necessarily dogs that need medical treatment. It can just be dogs that need a break from the shelter life, and they
right.
get the experience of having home life.
Mhm,
And it can sometimes be a rough transition at first, but we had a wonderful, the first foster after Jordan died was Buddy. And the only time he ever had an issue was when, a lot of times when somebody was hugging, we had to work on hugging because
mm,
he didn't react well. I think he had been abused at one point. And then when somebody would come close to my daughter, we had to work on that. You couldn't roughhouse with him around. And then we never found the right home. He lived with us for 9 months. He had the best 9 months of his life. He passed away from on my husband's and mine anniversary, actually. We had found the day before that they had actually found something in his shoulder, starts with a B, in his shoulder, and it had lodged and stayed in there for the most part. And it actually dislodged, and he became paralyzed within a matter of hours.
mm.
Um, they had to come and get him and try to see if they could help him. And they couldn't, and they called us, and I said, can we come to the place and adopt him right now? They said, that'll take too long. He's in too much pain. As far as I'm concerned, we're concerned, you're his forever home. And he did, and he was an amazing dog. So you can change dogs' lives in
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable ways. Um, and I was very that was an amazing dog for my daughter after the loss of her service animal.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
kids need to know that unconditional love of a pet. Um, I'm trying to teach my granddaughter that, we're all God's creatures. It doesn't matter if it's a plant, a fish, a dog, a cat, a horse. It doesn't matter what it is. We are all God's creatures and we all deserve to be loved and cared for, you know.
absolutely.
And it's funny because she'll say, like we'll see a cow going down the road and she'll say, that's God's cow. I'll say,
Yep.
you're right. It's God's
Yeah, it
cow.
is. We all
You know?
deserve to be loved and that someone cares about us.
That's right. That's right. And that's really all anybody wants
Yeah.
is to be loved and to know that somebody loves them.
We're going to get it on merch very soon, and it's going to be something because we have our intro and outro is done by a relative. Well, he's a friend of mine, but he's like a uncle to me. His name is Scott Thompson. He's blind. And he did a song called I'm So Proud to Be Me. And we have it on our channel. He can't play now, but he's so grateful that his music is getting heard. But he could literally go to the piano, hear a song, go to the piano and play it, or come up with it,
Mhm.
self-taught, amazing voice. And we're going to come up with a shirt that says, so, be proud of being yourself because everybody else is taken. I just
That's right.
I haven't figured out how it's going to say in our head, but
Yeah.
we want people to stay connected. Connection, guys, can make a huge difference. If you're dealing with chronic pain, it is a tool that needs to go in your toolbox. I won't live without it. It's why I do what I do. And I go on the channel, not for any, like I said, all the monetization goes to mama. And I just come on to connect with people because that's where I feel better in a lot of ways after I get done connecting. I've met some wonderful people. I
And
wouldn't have met
they say
Echo if it hadn't been for it.
the best way to feel better about your own circumstances is to help somebody else because
Amen.
then you're not concentrating on your problems.
Yeah.
You're trying to help somebody else with their problems.
And I remember when I had a dear friend of mine, and I had sat on a couch with her laughing over a selfie stick. Christina was a teenager, and I got in my car and I cried. And I said, I can't remember the last time I sat on a couch with a friend and laughed. And when I started this channel, I thought about that story, and I thought, I don't want anybody to suffer in silence. I don't want anybody to sit on the couch by themselves. If you're going through a hard time, come to our channel, go check out the Lifeboat. Wonderful group of people. You do not have to be dealing with an addiction. Just we're all in the same boat. It's there for peer support. It's there for connection. Great group of people. You have Echo's channel. There are so many channels that are doing live content. Gail's channel and so many others I could just name. Get involved with that. YouTube is no longer just a place of videos. There are communities being built, and we can do so much and make that connection be there for other people going through a difficult time.
It's why I do my channel. It really is. I don't think of it so much as the connection, but I know that I get so much out of it from the people that come into my chats and comment on my videos and things like that. And like I said, the lady that passed away, she was very important to me. I didn't realize how important I was to her until I spoke with her parents. And now I know that she had her own set of problems going on. And she found comfort being in my channel. And she was a very encouraging kind of person. If I would get a little down, or I would say, that's never going to work, I don't know why I'm doing this or what, she would be like, you just wait just 1 minute. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Now you just keep going, and things like that. And so it was so devastating to me when she passed. She made jewelry, was one of the things that she did. And she made my granddaughter a bunch of jewelry, and she made me some things too. But right before she passed, she made a bunch of keychains that she sent for my giveaway, for my 1,000 giveaway. And I have had a cross hanging by a chain in my car on my rearview mirror. And for some reason, the beads in the cross started falling out. And so I said, I've got to get something else to hang there. Well, anyway, one of the things that she sent on the keychains was this big skeleton key. And so I took that apart and I put the skeleton key, and it's right there under my rearview mirror. And every time I get in my car, I grab a hold of that and I say her name and tell her, I love you, And I would have never thought I would feel that way about somebody I met on YouTube. Never in my life. Exactly. And when my daughter says, she used to think it was funny, you're 60 something years old and you're on YouTube. And now that she knows what I get from it, she's like, you do your YouTube. Yeah. You do that,
Oh, I have sisters and brothers. We have a saying too. We love the disco ball saying. That's kind of why we have the membership set up the way. A little bit of Elvis, a little bit of the disco balls. But there's a saying that we kind of adopted that says, a disco ball is a bunch of broken pieces of glass put together to make a magical ball of light. You're not broken, you're a disco ball, and everybody loves that. Mm-hmm. And so I have a friend of mine who's turned like he's a brother, and he'll come on and say, hey, you're my disco brother, because he loved that saying and connected with it. And when I'm not doing so many projects, I will start putting these up, because these are our crocheted disco balls.
Oh, how cute.
So I've got these in the works, but I have so many things trying to get ready for this craft show my mom and I are doing that I'm like, that's going to happen, but there's going to be other stuff that we're going to load up. But everybody loves the disco ball saying. Mm-hmm. And I've been to Helen, Georgia. I cannot, one of these days, I hope to go back, because Helen, Georgia is, I don't know if you've ever been to Helen, Georgia, but it is beautiful.
Beautiful. Georgia is a very beautiful state. It really is. And other than the extreme heat in the summer, it's a great place to live. And you get used to that heat. it's overwhelming at first because it's like a wet, hot. I mean, it's like you can take a shower, dry off, put your clothes on, walk out the door, and you're wringing wet. It's like
Yeah.
that. It hits you and you're just drenched. And I don't know any other place that it's as severe as it is
Florida.
down here in Georgia. You know, I mean, in Florida, though, most of the time you have a little ocean breeze.
Sometimes it depends which place you're in, though, because it's not
Georgia
always,
is
if you're
like,
landlocked, it's not always the same place.
like thick. The air is thick and it's hot. It's like walking into an oven or something. And then you get in your car, and you can't even touch the steering wheel. It's so hot. You know, and you're like, okay, come on, air, come on, air. Even my 3-year-old granddaughter will say, Granny, turn the air on. It's like, the air is on, honey.
I mean, I never thought, I was raised in Florida for 40 years of my life. I never thought that I was going to love fall and winter like I do, but those are my favorite times. I don't like summer. I can't wait for it to cool off and have the fall leaves. I love seeing the fall leaves. I never get tired of it because I grew up in Florida where you didn't have that.
Right.
And when we moved from Florida to Ohio, we had my dad who had dementia, my daughter, Jordan, who was still alive, her service dog. We had my husband and myself, and we literally left South Florida, drove up the state of Florida, stopped in St. Augustine and Gainesville, went to Atlanta. My husband has family there. Went to Helen, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then Ohio, and never took the highway. Took all the beautiful back roads the entire way. We took 2 weeks to move. All our stuff was coming up in pods, and that was such a wonderful visit. We were in between homes. We had sold the homes down there, but we moved because I thought, if my daughter never gets married, there's no other family except my aunt down there, which couldn't take care of her. And my sister-in-law and my husband are probably about, I don't know, they're like 15 years apart. So she had young children, and they have a very good relationship. So I thought if anything happened, at least my sister-in-law could help take care of my daughter. But my daughter got married, which was a blessing.
I thought I was the only mother who worried what was going to happen to my only child when something happened to me, and now then once she got married, I was like, okay, she's got a husband. Now that she's got a daughter, it's like she's got a family. But the idea of leaving her alone, I couldn't imagine that.
Well, when you're dealing with a child on the spectrum, you're dealing even worse.
Oh,
because I'm thinking, at that point, my daughter didn't learn how to drive till she was in her 20s. I didn't feel comfortable. She actually went into an occupational therapy driving school that was covered by the insurance so that she could be taught how to drive. Because when people drive on autism, they look at everything surrounding them instead of paying attention to just key parts. They have to be taught differently how to drive. And so there was things that I just knew were in place. And I thought, if anything happens to us, she's going to be left with nobody. And my husband's grandmother had 6 kids. Mm-hmm. There's over 30 grandchildren. There's over 30 great-grandchildren. I mean, a huge family. I thought if anything did happen, at least she would be covered in that way. And I'm grateful we moved. And then she said, Mom, I want to go on eHarmony. I'm like, okay. And she married a gentleman that's a hard worker, and I said to her, is very similar to her dad, likes the country life and, and everything. And so she's married a good man, and I'm grateful for that. And she's married, and he had 4 brothers, or 3 other brothers. So, which was different because his they weren't, his mother had, 4 children in a way that I only had 1. Mm-hmm. So when you have more than one child, it's hard to sometimes understand the struggle of a person who only had 1 and knew they weren't going to have any more.
Right.
because we just, couldn't. And so, and it was crazy because one of the brothers was Josh and another brother was Jordan. They were all
Mhm.
J's.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm just amazed that your daughter does all the things that she's accomplished, when it could have went so many different ways. And I'm sure that's because of your advocating for her and helping
all fought.
make sure, things were done that needed to be done. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
You have to be, and it was because of behavioral therapy. It was because of Jordan. It was because of the family structure. It's a very lonely place to be because nobody understands. Everybody, even my mother said, after we got Jordan, and she said, I don't know how Mary's going to raise the $15,000 needed for Jordan. And afterwards, she's like, I should have just known Mary was going to do it. And I did, but people were questioning me about it. And I'm like, my daughter needs this. And it made such an impact. She was 13 or 14 years old and she goes, good night, Mom. And I'm like, wait a minute. She's going to bed by herself. I'm not having to sit there and then be up and down throughout the night because she's up and down and up and down. It's a very exhausting and tiring thing. We had respite care that came in and helped me. And we had the behavioral therapies that came in and there was just, I surrounded her with as much stuff as I possibly could. It's far from easy. It's something I didn't expect. She was misdiagnosed for 11 years. We thought we were dealing with an onset bipolar individual, and actually somebody just looked at her. Was in my home for a brief period of time. I said, this isn't that. You got a bipolar child or autistic child. I said, what? I had to learn a whole new set of skills.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now this is why when we go to the store and she has flat carrots in her head, she didn't like the crinkle because of the texture. She wanted the flat ones. So when they didn't have the flat ones at the store, her computer would crash and she would have a meltdown. And I had to be looked like you can't control your kid. No, that's not it. I've got a child that their computer crashed. Their routine did. Or if we changed her and gave her a bath before we gave her dinner, or we went to an overstimulating situation, we could have a 3-hour meltdown on and off.
And why is it that people don't think kids need routines? That's what they thrive on, because their world is so uncertain. And for them to have a routine and they know that, this is what's going to happen, and then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. And I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with parents today. They don't give them a set bedtime. They don't, and then they wonder why they can't get up in the morning to go to school. A child needs a certain amount of sleep. You have to make them go to sleep. You're not being a mean, bad parent because they have a bedtime. And that's one thing I told my daughter. I said, you will want her to have a bedtime so that you have a couple of hours to shower and get ready for the next day. You can't have her up with you until, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night and then expect her to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not going to work.
Except if you're dealing with an autistic individual.
Well, true. But
I tried the weighted blankets. I tried the TV. I tried putting an air mattress in her bedroom. I tried everything. And inevitably it would just fall. The only time that she would really sleep was by me. Even as a little kid, she'd come from her bed and crawl in, and I wake up going, oh yeah, as a single mother for several years. Oh yeah, she's right beside me.
Oh my God.
And I remember laying with Jordan, and there was a space between me and my daughter, and Jordan was lying there, and he came up in the middle, and then there was a space behind the bed that I didn't purposely leave. It was just there, and he kind of laid between us. And then he got up a few minutes later. It took him about 6 to 8 months after Christina was, had her to understand. And then he got up and he came around and he laid between the back of me as a way to say, don't worry, Mama, I got her. You can
Mhm.
leave now. And I remember after that, it was like she would say, good night, Mama. And I'm like, oh, this is what it's like. 8 o'clock, she's off to bed and she's asleep. And I'd go in there and I'd find her leg over his belly or her nose, her face near the rear back of him, and all different kind of places. And she slept. It was unbelievable to see that. And I thankfully did not have a kid that eloped, which meant that they're running away.
Yeah.
But they even train these dogs for kids like that to start like a bloodhound. They're sniffing their scent because for some reason autistic individuals are drawn towards large bodies of water. So they train them to actually go hunting for them. Or they'll, I know for people, it's like, why put a harness at your, a leash on your kid? Well, if you have an autistic child, I've done it because they'll just go running away. What they'll do in the middle of a store is they'll actually tether the child to the dog. It actually keeps them calmer.
Yeah.
So if we were in the middle, if we didn't go to Lowe's, we didn't go to Walmart, it was too overwhelming for my daughter. But if we went with Jordan and she got overwhelmed, I'd sit her down and Jordan would do what was called deep pressure. And you could just see her face go. And she would, even at one point, if she was going out for a walk with him, she'd say, Mom, why isn't he going anywhere? I said, because you're about to be, you're overwhelmed and you need to sit down and have some deep pressure. This was 100-pound black lab on top of her. And it was just like, you just see her face go. So if she was going to have a meltdown, he would warn me and say, she's getting overwhelmed. And I would go into right there. So what started happening is these 3 hours meltdowns would start to be reducing along with the behavioral therapy to the point where we could actually get words out instead of throwing objects, throwing punches, hurting myself or hurting her. You never knew what was going to happen. It's a very, very lonely, in my perspective of it. And I've run into other autistic mothers that nobody understands. And one of the first questions I ask them is, so can I just ask you, how does your child sleep? It's one of the first questions that come out of my mouth. They said, they don't sleep.
Don't sleep. I wonder how many times she woke up and was able to go back to sleep on her own because the dog
Very
was
little. Oh, with Jordan, yeah.
Yeah.
She'd go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
She had to go on what was called hydroxyzine, which was an allergy medicine to help her. Between that and Jordan, we were able to get her to sleep. But she'd sleep for 2 hours and then come through. I mean, my husband finally said to me, because at work, that one of the managers went by and I was like this. I was so tired. My husband was disabled at that point. He was not able to work. I was the only one working. And my husband said, listen, I'll go sleep in her bed. You sleep in your bed and you let her sleep with you because you've got to get sleep.
Yeah.
I'd come home from work and I'd be like, it's Saturday afternoon. My mother had her for the weekend. And I come home, I get done at 1 o'clock. I go to bed for 3 hours. I wake up and have dinner and go right back to sleep. I was that tired. It's a very tiring, exhausting existence. The best thing that you can do for a friend who's dealing with that, if you're there in person, don't try to go sit there and try to have them explain it to you. Try to understand what it's like. Even if you don't have anybody in your life with autism, I guarantee you, you're going to run into people that don't look you straight in the eyes. That's another factor of autism. They're not going to look you straight in the eyes, or they may be acting differently or unusual to you. Go find out about it. But you know what? If you have a friend who's dealing with that, go get a cup of coffee, go get a donut and sit by them and just talk, because they just want to have normal conversation.
Yeah.
They want to just have somebody there. They just want to have a friend. They don't expect you to understand. They just feel very alone. Because a lot of friends just say, I don't understand this, so I'm just going to part the Red Seas.
And they think the child is acting up, like you said, oh, I should be able to control this situation, and so they, even though they may not mean to, but they pull back because, well, Mary's got that child that does this and does that, and I like Mary and everything, but
she wasn't invited to parties because they didn't understand her.
Yeah.
There was, there was parties. I mean, we went to a doctor's
Heartbreaking.
office one time with Jordan, who had his service vest on. There was another woman in the office. Christina never did blood pressure readings very well. She actually got very nervous. So they were having her come in there for a blood pressure reading. She was a diabetic. She went to her diabetic doctor. And she was having a moment. She was having an autistic difficulty. And this lady who saw me with a black lab, I mean, he's not invisible, he's a 100-pound black lab with a service dog vest. And she said, "Oh, can't you just control your child?" And I said, "Ma'am, I'm doing the best I can." And she was upset because the normal nurse that she was used to left. And she was going to have a whole new nurse. And the last time she was in there, while they were taking her blood pressure, they looked at my mother, because I was working, and said, "If your grandchild doesn't come down, we're going to have to call 911. Are you that in? Why? Well, your child sitting there, you're going to make it worse." And so about 2 seconds later, I guess the office staff must have said something. And the lady who was her favorite nurse came out the door, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." And she just calmed her down for a few minutes. She goes, "I'm not leaving yet." And she just calmed her down and everything. And she was fine. But I thought, lady, do you really have to inject your...
People are so heartless. I don't understand. I mean, when I hear a screaming child or a crying baby, my first thought is not the parent is not doing something right. My first thought is, what can this child, what does this child need that they're not getting right now that's causing them to have this meltdown,
She just was scared to death of her blood pressure, and she wanted her favorite nurse, and the nurse wasn't there, and it was a change of routine. And I'm scared because they're going to have to call the paramedics on me. I don't want to have to go to the hospital. I mean, all these things were racing through her head. I'd have been a nervous wreck, and we're trying to do our best to calm her down. Jordan's trying to do the best to calm her down. And this lady has to, I had
to take my granddaughter to her 2-year checkup at the pediatrician. And she was on me like a little spider monkey. She would not let go of me. And our original pediatrician would just have us lay her down on the table, and he would examine her and do whatever. This pediatrician was his partner, not one we'd ever seen before. He came in, and because I was sitting there holding her, he said, "Well, you just sit on the end of the exam table and turn her around, and I'll examine her in your lap." Well, that would have been all fine and good if I could have got her off of me and turned her around. So he ends up taking her legs and going to try to pry her off of me. And it took about 2 or 3 minutes for him to realize, this is only getting worse. This is not going to happen. And he said, "You know what? I can do it sideways. Just hold on to her," and he did what he had to do. And she's never been sick anyway, so it wasn't a big deal, but it was just totally different doctor, different way of doing things. And now she does not like going to the doctor at all. And I'm like, I hate that she had that one bad experience, but she was hanging on to me for dear life. There was no way. And I could not. And he acted like, "What's wrong with you that you can't make her turn around?" It's like,
my daughter's she's 26 years old, and guess what? She went to a dentist and had her first fill-in, and guess who went with her? "Mama, can you come? Because I'm nervous." I'm like, "Okay, I'll be there."
Okay, I got one better than that for you. My daughter is going to have the baby, and they do a lockdown at the hospital, and they say that only one person can go with her to have the baby. So, of course, my son-in-law is going to go, so I don't get to go. But I had been to every doctor's appointment with her. So the appointment right before she went to the hospital, I said to the doctor, "I got a bone to pick with your hospital that they're not going to let me, be there." And he said, "Well, you actually have the bone to pick with me because I'm the head of the department, and I made that ruling because we have to keep the babies and the mothers, safe."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, I understand." So anyway, long story short, I had a long delivery with her and ended up having to have emergency C-section. So we knew that was going to be a possibility with her. So we had already discussed that prior. So sure enough, she gets in there. They try to induce her and all of that, and it's not working. And the doctor comes and says, okay, I think we need to make the decision to go ahead and do the C-section. And she said, let's call my mom, you know, and I want my mom and you to talk about it with me, you know.
Yeah.
So they called, we talked about it. I told her, I said, because I had a C-section with you, I can help you recover from a C-section. I can't help you recover from a natural birth because I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm actually more comfortable with you having the C-section, you being healthy, the baby being healthy. We'll
Exactly.
get through the recovery afterwards. So that's what we did. But I'm sure that doctor's thinking, you're old enough to be having a baby. You don't need to be calling your mama, you know.
I'm sure. I've said quietly, I've said to my daughter, I won't be in there, but I said, the minute you're going to, when the grandchildren come down the road for us, I said, I will be at the hospital, at least in the wings, if she feels she needs, or if my son-in-law says he needs a break to go get something, I can go in. But I said, I'll be waiting there just so she feels that I'm there. And, I want to stand on their own 2 feet, but
it was devastating to me that, at the last minute, I couldn't go. Yeah. But like you said, they needed to do that. It was something they needed as a couple, and as her parents, they needed to get through that. And so when they called and said, and they were there for 3 days, and they called and they said, okay, you can come and get us, we're getting released or whatever. I thought, I'm going to have to talk them into going and taking a nap or getting a shower or whatever and let me have the baby. We get in the car and my daughter's like, okay, well, you just take us home and then go get my prescriptions. I don't even want to go, wait in the car while you get them. So I'm like, yes, I'll do that. I get home and she's like, I've got the baby down. We're going to bed. The baby had been up that whole night before. Yeah. They were totally exhausted. They slept for like 12 hours. And I had the precious grandbaby to myself. But I thought for sure I was going to have to beg them, go get you some rest. But they both were so exhausted. They were like, Mama's here. We're going to bed. So
yeah. Well, it all depends on the environment you were raised in. I was raised with my mom and my dad, and then my grandparents, and my grandfather was my step-grandfather, his papu, which is grandfather in Greek. And my grandmother didn't want to be known as Yaya. I will gladly take that title, but she thought in her case it would come out Yo-Yo. So she was Nana, which was more of a Scottish trait. And we took care of my grandfather who had multiple sclerosis. So it was my mom, myself, my grandparents, and my uncle, and so very tiny family. We all pulled together. And I think that that's what our family has done for decades, is we've come together and we pull together as a family. And that's a different culture than what my son-in-law has had and experienced. And so it's 2 cultures coming together. I'm not the main support beam in my daughter's life. It's her husband, and that's the way it should be. I just want to be there. I want to be a side support. And when you're dealing with parents who have disabilities, then that's another factor that his mom and father are not necessarily dealing with the same thing. Now, if my husband can't drive and my mom can't drive, I can't drive. So then I will need my daughter's help in a way that his mother is not necessarily going to need. And so there's different factors and different cultures, and it takes a while to marry them together.
And you don't want to step over the boundary.
Exactly.
And cause it to be uncomfortable for either one of them. No. And that's my thing. It's like, if my daughter, sometimes in certain situations, she will call me first and then call her husband. And I will tell her very quickly, hang up for me, call him, then call me back and tell me what he said. But it's like in her mind, her first call is, I'm calling my mom. She'll know what to do, And I'm like, nope, I don't want it to be me.
Exactly.
I want it to be your husband. After you talk to your husband, then you call me and then we'll talk about it. And I never tell my daughter what to do. No. I tell her, if it was me, this is what I would look at. or this is what I would think about. But it's you, and you have to make that choice yourself. And I'll tell her, I made mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes. But I want
Absolutely.
you to make the same mistakes I made. You make your own mistakes. So if there's a situation that I've already dealt with and I've already made a mistake and I know the right way to deal with that, I'm going to share that with you. But when it comes down to you're going to do something crazy sometime and make your own mistake, that's going to happen. And you can't beat yourself up over it. When you make a mistake, you just
Have you
figure it out
have you
and keep going.
have you gotten the phone calls yet from your daughter that says, "Mom, why do you always have to be right?" And then sometimes she'll tell my mom, she goes, "Don't tell Mom, but she was right, but I
Right.
don't want her to know that she was right." It's like, because I've lived longer than you.
My daughter is she's very good about doing something the way I taught her to do it. And then I'll say, "And who taught you that?" You know? And she'll be like, "Well, you did, of course." And I'm like, "See, I did my job as the mother. I taught you how to do everything the right way. If you choose to do it differently in your adult life, that's on you. I've shown you what you're supposed to do." But it's so funny. You go to her house. Her house is set up exactly like my house. I have a bar across my laundry room door that I put the hangers on. And then when the clothes come out of the dryer, I hang them up. She gets her place. She gets the washer and dryer. She's got the bar hanging up with the hangers hanging on the bar. It's like, okay, all the time you gave me grief when I was teaching you how to do, household chores and
Yeah,
things like that, how to take care of yourself and everything, gave me grief over it. But now you're exactly like I am. You do
yeah,
exactly the same way I do it.
exactly. I did put her
My
channel in the
granddaughter
description
exactly the
below.
same way.
I did
Pardon me?
put my daughter's channel in the description below,
Oh, okay,
so that
cool.
people can go check out her cosplay. She's very talented. I'm hoping to be in a position down the road to be able to have one of those computers that, a better computer than I have. That's the next big expense. My son-in-law does wonderful with all that stuff, and I said, "You can build me one, and then I can have my own geek squad with him." But that she could go in and kind of have the, like, being able to access my computer from wherever she is, and we can put videos, and I can let her. She loves to do editing stuff, and I thought I could say, "Here's a bunch of videos, here's content, put it together and put it out and let you do it, and I'll gladly give you a little bit and let you do the editing work." So that's the dream down the road. And then when I said to my mom, "You have to be here till you're 150." But when she's no longer here, then I will just turn the channel over. Then I'll still be doing live content like we are, but then I'll turn it over to my daughter and say, "Here, you go." Again, all I want is the connection. And I want people also to find the connection like we're finding today. This has been a delightful conversation. I've enjoyed it tremendously.
Go ahead.
And I want people to find that and find out that it is on YouTube. I think even more prevalent than it was ever before. And editing takes so much time, yes, but my daughter loves it. If you go to her channel, she does a lot of short stuff, but she does a lot of cosplay and editing, and she loves it. So I would much rather say, "Here you go. Here's the videos. You do all the work," and I'm just going to,
I
I'll
don't
put
like
them up. That's why
I
I do a lot of.
splice things together. I'm good at that. I'm good at putting a video and a picture but as far as like editing the actual video, I'm just like, well, we can't use that because you said, whatever. And Dave is notorious for starting to talk. I'll say, "I'm recording now. What are we doing for dinner?" Okay, did you not hear me say I'm recording now?
Well, I
So
have a little button over here because in my little studio, whatever little studio we have, it's in the corner of my bedroom. So that's why I got a $10. This was on OfferUp, and I just filled it. It was a picture divider because behind there is my TV. And so I just did crochet. I just found yarn and I did a C2C pattern and filled it up. I did a sign from Dollar Tree. This I made with some yarn, added some fall leaves recently. But the bed is there and stuff in our bathroom and everything. And then my husband sits a lot out in our living room. And so he said, I'm tired of coming in and seeing, are you live? So he got one of those things that says live thing, those little signs. So he hooked up this little light thing. So he said, when you go live, you flip that. And it's sitting on the piano out there. And then he knows that when that sign's on, Mary's live and nobody comes in the room.
Well, see, I'm actually in my kitchen.
Yeah.
I have a kitchen.
And he can see it.
And then I have like supposed to be a little dining area.
Yeah.
And I don't have a dining table. And so I have my desk. And this is actually the door to the utility room.
Yeah.
So we don't use this door except for when they come to change the filter. But right across from me is the living room. And right this way is the hallway that goes to the bedroom and the bathroom. Yeah. So I'm like right here in the midst of any traffic, any, he'll come in to get a snack, and he'll stand there and start talking to me. And I'm like, I'm live. So, and I'll be like, they can hear you. I don't have to do anything,
That's why my husband was like, I'm coming up with a sign so that when you're live, you pop. So when I pop this little light switch, there's a little sign right on our piano out there. And then he can see, oh, I'm live. I can't go in because we have another bathroom. We have my mom's bathroom. And so he can use that. And he said, I know not to come in, or I know to at least let you know and text you, say, I'm coming in, turn your camera off. And at least I have heads up.
Right.
But you guys, you don't have to have fancy equipment to do this. It's a $30 camera, only because I knew our camera was terrible with the computer. It was a mic that cost me $30. And I tried to be creative. And if you go back to our first videos, I did a backdrop from Dollar Tree, which looked terrible. And so I found this on OfferUp, and it was just a room divider with picture frames. I just put crochet stuff in it.
No, my first videos are awful. I didn't know how to do voiceover. I didn't know how to do really anything. So I typed out all the words, and it's like you have to sit there and read. And some of them, the screens go by so quick that there's no way anybody could be reading what I said, And it's like, oh my gosh.
And in the month of Christmas, we're going to be doing lives, or try to, every solitary day. We know that Christmas can be a really wonderful time, but for some people it can be hard. And so we're doing something called Christmas Connection. And literally every day, if you go to us, there is, a connection happening. There's a live happening every solitary day in December. It may not be from here. It probably won't be from outside because it'll be cold, but we're going to figure out a way to make sure that we can turn it on. And I am probably going to be even just turning it on the live so people can come in and connect. And I've got some crochet projects that have to get done for an upcoming craft show. And I said to people, would you like me to just come on and you guys can connect? And they're like, yes. We did Lighthouse Monday for a while. We'll start that next year again, where people just came in. It wasn't anything that we were live, but it was live. But we did it so that people can just come in and connect. We have some relaxing stuff on our thing. We have fall leaf relaxation and water and thunderstorms and all different kind of relaxing streams that go for about 10 hours on each one of them. And that helped with watch hours.
I like to play games. And so I don't care if I'm the only one in there playing. If I want to do a jigsaw puzzle, or if I want to play the word game, I will go live and I will do it all by myself, And Dave will be like, are you just doing that, or are you live? And it's like, no, I'm live. And one day I had like 8 people doing a jigsaw puzzle. And the jigsaw puzzle has a little white hand, and it grabs the pieces, And it was just like all these little hands. He was like, that would annoy me, and I'm like, yeah, but you have your little section you're working on, everybody kind of knows what they're working on, but some people don't have anything, to do, don't have cable. And if they like puzzles or they like games, hey, they'll come hang out, And I've never been one that cared about the numbers. I don't care if there's one person or 100 people. They're going to get the same me every time. and that's just how it is, and I
Same for the
don't
members.
share. I mean, I probably overshare things about my life, but I feel like I want people to know where I'm coming from, that sometimes you have to tell them some back history or they're not going to understand, what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Dave will tell me that all the time. Well, you overshared on that. Don't tell them everything. I'm like, I can't be selective. And
No.
if I went and did something or something happened, I'm going to tell it. I can't be selective and say, well, yeah, or I won't be going to tell somebody something.
Yeah.
And then Dave will say, well, tell them the story about such and such. And I'm like, I wasn't going to share that part,
I tell people the magic is not buying the cameras in the chat. It has nothing to do with numbers. It has everything to do with connection.
And I like it when you've got somebody that comes in and they start connecting with other channels, and then you start seeing them commenting on your stuff, and then you go in somebody else's chat and they're in there. And it's like, yes, that's the whole thing. You don't have to just stay in one place or one area. Go wherever you want to go, and I'll go in somewhere and I'm like, hey, I know that person and I've talked to that person before. And
that's what happened on the lifeboat. Is that kind of connection that happened. And it was literally life-changing. I've said to Tommy, I said, I think of you as a brother, and he'll say the same, a family. And I sent him a connection cake, and he said, it's right here. I love you. And I love you right back, brother. And, he has an interesting past, but he's using his past for good and to be able to help people that are dealing with addiction, and so forth and so on. And so it's good. I don't believe anybody that's been through alcohol or drug addiction. I think people best understand it. Somebody that's walked through those shoes, and he has. He's been in prison, and he
doesn't judge them.
No, there's no judgment there. So his story is inspiring to see where he's coming from, and he's just trying to help people, and just a really good dude. And we're going to be leaving shortly and going to Grandpa's Cheese Barn, which is a local place here in Ashland, and he loves candy corn. And in Ohio, we have different flavors of candy corn. We actually have candy apple candy corn at a local store and so forth. So last year, I sent him some candy corn, and I'm like, and every holiday there was a different kind of candy corn flavor coming out. And so I'm like, okay, it's candy corn season. So guess where Mary's going? So I'm going to be sending him. I said, your candy corn delivery is up. And then his brother also has a huge channel called Chase the Heat. And, he said, well, that candy corn Mary sent, well, that's just not candy corn. That's so good. And so he said, yeah, he doesn't like candy corn. So Ohio has some pretty good candy corn. So we're going to be heading down there shortly. And
I don't know why candy corn smells so good.
Ohio candy corn is pretty good.
But it's like movie theater popcorn. The smell is different than the actual taste. Yeah. But you can't walk in there and smell it and not be like, oh, I need some popcorn,
Well, if you go to
candy corn, I love the way it smells.
If you go to Chase the Heat and you look up the video Bacon, we sent in that package Grandpa's Cheese Barn hot pepper bacon jam, and you should see Tommy and his brother eating this. I think by the time they got done with the bottle, trying it, they had half of it done. And you can also use it over a glazed ham. They go, oh, we got to go get a ham. The bottle got fit. It got used very much. It was done before it got a glazed ham on it. But it was so funny to watch them. And at that time, I was going through some difficult times. And so he loved our soap caddy. He said, and I didn't realize it, that people, men, knew women could, but that men actually crochet in prison. And he did. He crocheted, and they crochet in prison. They don't use metal. They use plastic. and they have to donate stuff, send it out or donate it to charities or so forth. And I sent him one of our soap caddies. And he said, I cannot believe that the entire time within this, nobody in prison ever thought about making a soap caddy. He said, this thing is, he said, it was hysterical to say this little pouch and you put in the soap. He said, you got to be woofing me. And so I go back to a little bit of saying that, you know what, our channel came because somebody told me, if you got something to say, hit that red button. And I'm really glad I did. For a lot of reasons. Cool. That's not really the same person I was a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody should stay the same person.
No.
I think you should always be growing and learning. And I think too many people get in ruts and they just sit there, and they're unhappy with their circumstances and uncomfortable in their life, but they won't do anything to change it. They just stay that way. I feel like we have a choice. I really think you can choose to be in a happy life. It may hurt, it may be painful to change your life, but I do believe you can get happy. I mean, when my husband left, I was not happy. And I thought it was his fault I was not happy. It was my fault I was not happy. I lost me over the years of being a wife and a mother and somebody's employee and all of that. I didn't take time and take care of Echo. So Echo wasn't there. And when I had to go out and get an apartment on my own, I didn't know what Echo liked. People would say, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? I don't know. I know what my husband would say. I know what my daughter would want, but I don't know what I would want. And I had to relearn, and I'm not that person anymore. And I mean, I'm good friends with my ex-husband now because of my daughter and my granddaughter, but I'm not the same person that was in that marriage. And he's not the same person that was in that marriage. And it takes a lot of work and forgiveness to be able to be in a relationship with somebody who hurt you so badly.
Absolutely.
But even though I don't think I had any responsibility in it, I did, because I didn't know he was as unhappy as he was. And he didn't give me a chance to fix things, but I should have known him well enough to know he wasn't happy. So I take my ownership in the situation, even though he did all the leaving and all of that,
Yeah. And I did with my daughter. It was a very hard breakup, and she said later, much later, as she got older, she goes, Mom, the one thing that I admire is, she said, I know that you could have done a lot of bad talking. She said, you never did it in my presence. And I said, well, you were part of you was represented by that, and, by him. And I did not want to, as angry as I was, as hurt as I was, as all of those emotions was not to put on you. So if I was dealing with that and I was angry at him, it was not to be able to say, your father, this and that and this. I didn't name call. She said, you never name called. And she said, you didn't have to be respectful because of how hurtful everything was, but you were.
Well, and that's not easy. I was very happy that my daughter and I were as close as we were, and that she knew I didn't know the situation. She knew it was total blindside. And he even, of course, he left for another woman, but he lied to that other woman and said he was in contact with our daughter, and he was not. He totally, when he left me, he left her. And for 3 years, they had no contact. And he's not married to the other woman. And she and I are actually very good friends because we both love the grandbaby. And she's Nana, and he's Grandpa, and I'm Granny, and Dave is Papa. And,
everybody's more love.
fall out, you know.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't reached out to her and said, "Look, I'm planning a baby shower. Do you want to be a part of it? Because if you do, you're welcome. And if you don't, no hard feelings."
That's what I did. I mean, he was out of her life for many years, for a
Mhm.
majority of her life. And then she decided she wanted to contact, and they did. And she video chatted and everything. And I even reached out and said, listen, you know, I'll even be willing to financial issue. And I said, I'll be willing to pay the hotel. Just, I need you to come up here and have that meeting before she's ready to walk down the aisle. And Josh is the dad for the day. You're not that individual. And
Mhm.
he is, my daughter's gotten to the point where she's like, I don't want any contact with that side. There's too much hurt happened. But she said, Mom, despite everything, she said, you were always respectful. And I said, well, that's what it needed to be. Later on, as she got older, she knew the truth. She knew the truth. There's some things that happen that I'll never share with anybody else, and that's her truth, and she knows it. But as growing up, I was just always respectful.
Yeah, I never spoke ill of him because, and he was my best friend. We were married for 29 and a half years.
Mm-hmm.
I was still in love with him. I didn't want the marriage to end. So it was very hard on me to even wrap my head around, how can this be happening? And then of course he lied and said it wasn't another woman. But then when I met the other woman, she and I are very much alike, and he lied to her as well. So it's kind of like we all know the situation, but we choose to get along for the children, you know. And I wouldn't have it any other way. They're great grandparents, and my daughter is able to have a relationship with them and a relationship with us. She doesn't have to feel like she's being pulled one way or the other. And I would never say you can't spend the holiday with them, or you can't, I'm like, hey, we can split holidays. We can do birthdays together. We can do whatever we need to do because I love her that much that I want her to have that
I
relationship.
left. It was an abusive relationship, and I literally left because my life was being threatened.
Well,
with my 2-year-old daughter, I had to flee for my life. It was unbelievably scary. I was thankful my parents were there to literally get me out, because I don't know if we would have made it out alive. And that's,
well, I don't care. Abuse is abuse, and it should never happen, and it's not okay. And I also believe once they hit you one time, it's never going to stop, and they can tell you they're sorry a million times, but it's never going to change. And I have a friend who is in a very abusive relationship, and she has left him numerous times. She's even called the police and had him arrested, and then gone and bailed him out.
I went back 3 times.
And she loves him, and she thinks
I did.
Change.
I wanted my family together. I wanted it to work, and it just was not going to happen. And I've since forgiven, and things were said, and apologies were met. It took many, many years to have that happen, and he had the door open for him, and he had the door open to be there at the wedding along with his mom, and they chose not to be there. And my daughter was like, Mom, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's your choice.
Well, and that when my daughter said to me, I want to go in, because we knew about where he was at. And she said, I want to know why he's not been in contact with me. And she said, he could have left you, but I'm his flesh and blood. Why would he leave his child? And so I said, that's fine. I will take you. It was out of state. I will take you. I will arrange for you to meet with him and meet his new wife or whatever. But I don't want to have any dealings with him or her. Mm-hmm. I want it to strictly be, for you. And I wouldn't even sit down at the table with them. And she actually respected the fact that I didn't try to meddle or try to make it about me or, anything like that, that I actually let my daughter deal with it, but with me there for support. And my daughter made the choice that she wants them in her life. So that's how it's going to be. Now, if she ever comes to me and says, that's it, I don't want him in my life, of course, I'm not going to force her,
Yeah.
but I'm going to make sure that she knows I'm okay with it. It's your choice. I would never want her to be able to say, well, Mom, you wouldn't let me have a relationship with my dad or whatever.
Well, I said to her, if you want them at your wedding, at your wedding, you can have them, and I'll be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
I was glad, part of me, that it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I can tell you the first time after she was in her 20s when they first talked.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally, no joke, my hands, my daughter watched me. She said, before the phone call, I was shaking.
Mm-hmm.
And after, she goes, Mom, I didn't realize just, all the stuff. She said, I said, it was not fun. And if I can be on here through our channel or other channels I've gone on talking about it to help young women to realize, guys, don't need to be just treated like this. If I can be a voice of that, then it's worth it. What I went through is worth it. Everything I've gone through is worth it.
And when my daughter and son-in-law were going to get married, this is before they got back in touch with their dad, she said, I know you're anti-marriage, but we want to get married. And I said, no, you're wrong. I'm not anti-marriage. I enjoyed being married. I wanted to be married. I'm anti getting left and not being prepared to live on my own. So I want you to be prepared, for the worst case scenario, hope for the best, but be prepared just in case. And my son-in-law could have taken offense at that, and could have been like, well, you don't trust me at all. You think I'm just going to leave her or what, and I'm like, you need to prepare yourself too. What if she leaves you? Same thing could happen. You don't need to be, it's not the 1950s where everything's in the husband's name and the wife has no credit and all of that. You both get credit. You both have jobs. You both pay bills, and exactly. I'm proud of the fact that they have been through hard times, but they have been there to support each other and have made it through it.
Yep.
Whereas other couples may not have lasted, So I'm proud of them for that. But I'm not anti-marriage. I'm not living in the fairy tale anymore. My eyeballs are wide open and I'm going to make sure I take care of me.
Yeah.
You can take care of me and not have to rely on a man because you just don't know. Sneaky.
I married my best friend. We're going to celebrate 18 years of marriage coming up, and he has just been a rock. And we decided to put the D word in the ocean and burn the boat. We said there are 3 things that will keep us, from breaking that commitment. And if those 3 are broken, then we'll talk about it. Otherwise, it's there, because there's days that I love him and there's days that I go, not today. I always love him. I guess it's not like him, where it's like, today you are just driving me up a wall. And there's other days where I just love him and he's the best thing. And then, so forth and so on. But you have those days. Feelings can be very fickle. From a perspective of religious wise, we believe in marriage, but I can tell you that I didn't expect to get married again after my first one. I had to go to counseling or a pastor because I was like, well, I'm not supposed to get divorced. And he helped walk me through that. But, Josh, we've known each other since 97 and we just could talk about anything. And he literally got on a plane with luggage in his hands and came down to Florida and said, I want to date you. And, he said, you're the love of my life and I've never stopped loving you. He got married and got divorced. And he's often said, if it hadn't been for you. And he said, I have to fight for him too and his medical needs. And I have had to fight. I've had to be that fighter a lot in my life. And I'm thankful. You got that persistent gene.
Yeah. Strong women.
Yep. Oh, I've got some stories of some strong women talking from my great grandmother. They have a little bit of Lizzie in me.
Yeah, my dad taught all of us kids, you know, you don't take no guff off of nobody. You do what you're supposed to do and you be a good person. But when it comes right down to it, you stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And my sister and my brother, neither one of them have ever been able to hold a job with someone else as the boss. They have to be self-employed and be the boss because they have a hard time somebody telling them, what to do. I'm the only one. I worked for Walmart for 17 and a half years, and I had lots of people tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But, I did what I had to do. But I don't know. There's just something about standing up for what's right. And people who, can't defend themselves or can't fight for themselves, those are people that I feel like need somebody, to fight for them, to help them or whatever it might be. But YouTube has been a wonderful experience for me. I will never regret having started trying to learn YouTube. I don't think I'll ever know YouTube.
No, you won't know it fully, but my great grandmother, Lizzie, and that's why I say every once in a while I have a little bit of Lizzie in me. She had never met her brother-in-law, and he came down, he was serving. And so he came down the stairs and he hadn't shaved and he was in his robe and so forth. And so she just looked at him, never had met him before, and said, "So, Gordon, when are you going to get all cleaned up and ready for breakfast?" He said, "When the spirit moves me." She looked straight at this man she had never seen before, never met, and said, "Well, Gordon, the spirit better move you awfully quick because you're not getting served breakfast until you're all cleaned up." He didn't say one word. He turned tail and went up and got himself all cleaned up and ready to go. And my great-grandmother, along with my grandmother, was just a spitfire. She had polio in one arm. And my grandfather, again, step-grandfather, had multiple sclerosis. So she had one arm, and she took care of that gentleman for 25 years. Every little thing was taken. She would teach the nurses. She was a spitfire from day one. And so she lived to be 95 years old. Wow. And I just keep saying, guess what? I got a little Lizzie in me. I tell my daughter, and it's funny because she goes, "Mom, if I have a girl, I want it to be Elizabeth after Lizzie." I said, "Lord, I don't ask for one, just one girl." Maybe that likes to crochet. My daughter doesn't like to crochet. She likes to cosplay. And I'm like, just give me one granddaughter. So
I didn't care if she had a boy or a girl. But
I don't care. It's just a little part of me just wants one.
My son-in-law's brother has 6 boys.
Oh my goodness.
And so everybody said, it's going to be a boy. They don't make girls. It's going to be a boy. And we got a girl. So I'm sure my son-in-law would have loved to have had a son, but he loves that little girl. What they say about a daddy's girl.
Yes. Well, and that was one thing, is that my son-in-law has 3 other brothers. So, I'm just like, Lord, just give him one girl. He'll understand, especially when it's time to walk that girl down the aisle, because it's handled very differently than you would handle a boy. So I've just said just one, but I'll take any. I didn't think I'd see her get married. I didn't think that I would have the possibility of being a grandmother because of her struggles and her disability. And God certainly provided that. And it was actually a friend that got him on eHarmony. He said, just put me on there. And it was a friend that got him on eHarmony. And that's how they matched up. And that friend that he used to work with, he doesn't know where he went to be able to thank him for putting her together with my daughter, but they're good for each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they balance each other out, they get each other. And that's a hard thing to do when you're dealing with somebody with autism. But he's good for her and she's good for him. And that's good. That's a good match.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you want that for your
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
It's important that they have a husband who not only is there physically, but is emotionally available
Yeah.
to them. And
Yeah.
with everything my son-in-law has gone through, I really don't think he knew what love was until he fell for my daughter.
I think
And then
this
I
is,
really don't think he knew until he had his own daughter. And then
yeah.
I think now he knows what true love is. But yeah.
Well, I think too, I think my daughter being the way she is, and I think the way that he is, um, there's been some things that my daughter has helped him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that we all can tend to have some autism traits running through us a little bit if you look at it long enough. And I think there is some, he's extremely smart. My husband and I said, boy, are we going to have some whippersnappers or grandkids one day? And so because of that, they mesh well. But my daughter is much more outgoing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Children on the spectrum have to be taught empathy. It's not something that they're born with. They have to be taught it. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
daughter could hit me in the middle of a meltdown and look at me like straight, dead face, deadpan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I could be crying and she'd be going, you have to teach them, wait a minute, somebody's hurting because they don't see the social cues and the facial expressions that you and I see. They
Right.
don't see that. And so that has to be taught to them. Somebody's hurting, somebody's crying. This is how we react to them in a way, in a very different way than children without autism experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're meshing well because there's things Christina needs, as well as things that her husband needs from Christina. And it's a really good fit. Um, and I think with most men, I think us women kind of help soften them. And my husband, before I married him, he was not a talker. You would
Mm.
never know that now. You got something from being around this talker.
Oh, I used to say to my ex all the time, you don't have anything to say? It's like, I would like to have a conversation, please. And he'd be like, nope, you said it all. You said everything needed to be said.
And it's funny because sometimes when I go on crochet projects, I'll get into a series. And when I was growing up, my grandparents loved Dallas. And so I'm watching Dallas because I'm like, okay, well, it's just a series and I can find out about it. But when I was growing up, I had like a horse, like a full size horse, rocking horse. And they were saying to me, what are you going to name it? And the theme song for Dallas came on. So I said, Dallas. And my grandfather said, I told everybody it was from the Dallas Cowboys because I didn't want to tell everybody it was from the show. But I thought, well, now I'm in my 40s. I'll watch Dallas and find out what this was all about. Right.
Mm.
So it's so funny because my husband will come in and go, okay, what's happening now? I said, no. If I'm going to try to explain this whole series to you, I think I'm going to get confused. So if you would like to sit and watch it with me, I will gladly start from square one again and we'll go through the whole thing. I don't know what happened. We'll go through the whole thing and we'll watch it from day one because I'm not going to try to go through the entire series all over again. She may have gotten herself out of the live. I don't quite know. So we're just going to sit here and say hello. I hope everybody enjoyed this live. I know I did. It was a pleasure to finally get the opportunity of meeting Echo and being on her channel. And I don't think that this is going to be the only time. And I'm hopefully welcoming her to my channel too as well. I think that will be a nice thing. We've certainly talked. The two people that, yeah, she just disappeared, Starlight. It could be that she hit the studio button. She could have lost connection. I don't want to leave. Oh, she's coming back. She said, I'm coming back. But I don't think that this will be the only time. There she goes. But I don't think this will be the only time. Well, maybe not. If not, we may be saying goodbye. But I don't think this will be the only time. But it's too funny when my husband tries to come in and want me to dive deeply. Are you back? No,
Trying to
nope.
get
Now she's
it
gone.
there.
There she comes.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. He'll be coming in and going, "You're going to tell me about it?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I kind of have a gist of it." I said, "No, we're not. If you want to watch Dallas, we'll start from the beginning and I'll watch it all over." It's too complicated.
Well, my daughter and I found a couple of authors that we really like, and we've been
Yeah.
swapping the books back and forth and reading them. And Dave will say, "Is it a good book?" And I'll say, "Well, yeah, it's a good book." "Well, what's it about?" I'm like, "I could tell you, but you could read it too, you know." So he picks one up one day and he reads like the first paragraph.
Yeah, I'm not a
And he's
reader
like,
either.
"Yeah, no, that's okay, you know."
I'll be happy. I love doing crochet projects and I've watched Dallas and Lacey and Cagney and Lacey. And I love Heartland is another one that my husband and I love. And A Wind Calls the Heart is another lovely one. And we'll just get into those series and I'll let them fly and work on my crochet projects. I'm happy-go-lucky with that one.
Yeah, I used to watch all the because I had Hulu at one time and I still have Netflix, but
Yes.
I would definitely sit there and watch something that I watched, years ago. But I like the fact that you can sit there and watch episode after episode after
Yep.
episode instead of having to wait a week for the
I
next
didn't
one.
I didn't have to wonder who shot JR.
No.
My poor grandmother did though the whole entire time. That was but it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been on here 3 hours and 25 minutes,
I don't think either one of us can talk.
and we haven't had anything to talk about. I
Well,
can't
you'll
believe my
have to
daughter
come on
was
my channel one time because
fun.
I really enjoyed this.
Okay, I
I hope you
definitely
have.
will. Yeah, I've had a great time. I was like, I want to have guests on, and then at first everybody was like, yeah, 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 and then everybody was like, well, I'm like, come on, let's do this now, So now I have somebody, nobody next Wednesday, but then somebody on Saturday, November 2nd, somebody on Wednesday the 6th, and Wednesday the 13th. So I'm doing good getting people to agree to come on.
I think it makes the time go faster, and if in anything else, it shows connection. I mean, if we've spent 3.5 hours, guys, on here talking, and I've only met her through the chat and everything, this is a connection that happened just through the YouTube.
Hang
So
on
you
one
guys
second.
can make those connections.
Hey, can you hold on a minute? Okay.
You can make those connections happen and they can
Oh
stick.
yeah, definitely. And spend the time to do it.
Yes.
Just put that time into it. You won't be disappointed. I promise you will not be disappointed. You will definitely find somebody to connect with.
And we want your cookie recipe. And you don't
That's
have
right.
to crochet to be a part of our channel.
That's right. And make sure you get the cookie recipe, you fill out the form and get it to her so that we can all get the cookbook. I really want the cookbook.
Well, and the cookbook will be doing something good, and we will put together the shorts. And if your channel wants to do a video of the recipe, go right ahead. And this way we can make it happen. If you want to do a short of the cookie recipe, we just ask that you use the PDF that we're going to do, because we're going to do the green PDF one for our channel, and it will be red for everybody else, so that we can tell which is sitting on what channel. If it's red, it's on everybody else's channel. If it's green, it's on ours.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it's a wonderful idea, and I have it. I think I have it in my Nightbot, but I definitely have it. I'm going to have a slide that I'll pull up every live and talk about it.
And
so.
if you go on our link tree, because I put that up recently, you will see the cookie form there. It's there, plus the Facebook for the cookie connection. And we asked people to, and this was my mom's idea, to include their favorite song. It's on the questionnaire form. And what we'll do is we'll put the cookie recipe with one of the 3 choices of your favorite Christmas song, because that's just another connection.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah. So it'll work. The connections, it's all about the connections. You'll build the relationships, and those will turn into subscribers, guys, if you're a channel.
That's right. And don't worry so much about the numbers. You'll get there.
Worry about the connections.
But worry about the connections. That's right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap this up.
Yes. It was a joy.
My daughter's on the phone saying, why haven't you brought the grandbaby home? But the grandbaby's still asleep. So.
Well, tell your daughter hello, and she is a wonderful mother.
Well, thank you very much.
That loves her.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of your week.
Have a great day, everybody.
And now my mouse is frozen. I got kicked off, and now it won't let me get out of here. Here we go.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mary. I enjoyed it.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.